You might build this Super Bowl 21 and a half at Soldier Field on a gorgeous night. The weather could not be better. Late summer, temperature in the mid-60s. It's dry, no rain expected until well past the game. And Bill Parcells, who began his career with the Giants with 4 victories in a season back in 1983. And since then, he's come on to the point where the Giants last year are the Super Bowl champions. And here we go, the kickoff in the direction of Lee Roussad, who comes out past the 20 and is taken down at the 24-yard line. And the offense now for the Giants before this roaring throng, Phil Simms. And the last time we saw Simms, 22 out of 25 in the Super Bowl against Denver. Once injury prone, now very durable. The backs are Morris and the blocking back Carson, Manuel and Robinson, the wideouts, and Bavaro, and the revamped offensive line with William Roberts now at right tackle. They send Carson in motion on first down, fake the draw to Morris, and a lot of time for Simms, and over the middle complete to Manuel, who missed most of last season with a knee injury. And so the Giants begin with a pass to the 44-yard line and a first down. Reggie Phillips covering on the play. The great front four. Perry is weighing in at about 315. Then on the outside, the terrific linebackers, Singletary, fully healthy again after a groin problem last year. And the secondary, revamped and perhaps somewhat suspect at the corners. We'll see as we go along. Manuel in motion from the 44-yard line. And it's Carson who takes it to the 50 for a gain of 6. Maurice Carson, normally the blocking back. Denton Marshall making the tackle. Carson now in his 3rd year with the Giants, yet to score a touchdown.
I think Bill Parcells was really pleased to see Phil Simms loosen up with that one quick completion. If he's been doing anything wrong, and Bill talked to him a great deal this past week, he's been trying to do everything just absolutely perfect. He's got that out of his system now. He can relax and settle down.
Manuel is the man in motion, and here's Morris' first carry of the season, and he gets a first down inside the 40 to the 39-yard line. So an impressive opening drive for the Giants. Simms to the air, Carson on the ground, and now Morris on the ground. His numbers through 5 years. Joe out of Syracuse. First down.
I think Mike Ditka is seeing a self-fulfilling prophecy. He told us yesterday that he thought the Giants were going to come in and open it up offensively, that here in the playoff game they were far too conservative offensively, and I think he's getting what he thought he was going to get, but I don't know that he expected these kind of results.
First and 10, New York at the Chicago 38-yard line. Simms to throw for the second time. Good protection again, and incomplete, intended for Stacy Robinson. Stacy Robinson starting along with Manuel. Last year, Bobby Johnson was their key wideout. He was subsequently sent to San Diego and then waived by the Chargers, but they picked up a couple of rookies that we'll be seeing before too long, and Mark Ingram and Stephen Baker.
Not a completion, but a good read by Phil Simms. He wanted to go deep to Lionel Manuel. He was double covered, as he will be most of the night. He read it, checked off, didn't get the completion, but fired over to Stacy Robinson.
Second and 10 at the 38. Simms close to a first, just shy of the marker is Lionel Manuel making the catch, setting up a third and very short, and that time it was Duerson blitzing from his new spot, and he was picked up by Joe Morris.
And Dan, you know the price you pay with the blitz, the single coverage.
Well, Larry Wilson was a teammate of mine for years, and he used to tell me how many times he'd come on the safety blitz, and for every time he came in and got the quarterback, he went out just as fast when he was picked up, and that time Duerson took a fine shot from Joe Morris in the middle.
Double tight end setup now with Bavaro on the left and Moat, the other tight end, in motion. Third and inches, and it's Morris back of Carson for the first down and a lot more. And out of bounds he goes at the 16-yard line.
And this time, Maurice Carson to the left of your screen. If Carson gets the block, Joe Morris scores. He's going to throw on Bestie Jackson. Can't get him down to the ground. If Carson puts Jackson on the ground, Joe Morris goes into the end zone for 6.
Giants at the Bears 16-yard line. to the left. Morris cuts it back inside and takes it down to the 11-yard line.
Right now, it's absolutely picture perfect, wouldn't you say, Dan, for the Giants offense. They came out, first play, loosening Phil Simms up, who, again, over the years, and I'll try to clarify that a little bit, has always had this feeling. He is a very strong competitor. He likes to do it all himself, and he will be a little tight. He loosened up with that completion. That's what Parcells wanted, but they moved the ball on the ground. They've read the defenses dead solid perfect.
2nd and 4 at the 10. Simms pressured this time, jostled, loose ball at the 9-yard line, and Chicago appears to have recovered. So the Bears get the first big break of the season, and coming off the field with the football is Wilbur Marshall.
Bears football. Todd Bell is going to come on the safety blitz from the upper right-hand corner. It's good protection early. It collapses. You see Bell come in and the hit. Clearly a fumble. And Wilbur Marshall in to pick up the ball. And the Bears, even though they were getting jammed defensively, come up with a play when they need it.
And so the Giants start 87 with the same problem the Bears had last year. The Bears had a lot of trouble scoring when they got deep into opposition territory. This time they're the beneficiary. So here they come with Tomczak at the 8, first down. And Taylor lining up on the left side, and Lawrence goes back into pass coverage as the first pass of the season from Tomczak is caught by Emery Moorhead, the tight end. Mike Tomczak, free agent, undrafted out of Ohio State, local kid, born here, raised here, son of a coach, and there he is beating out Flutie and Jim Harbaugh, the rookie, as the starter in lieu of McMahon. Peyton and Neil Anderson, that's a switch from past years. Suey is on the bench. Gault and Morris, the rookie, and Moorhead. And there is the very good offensive line, though a little banged up, Hilgenberg playing in a shoulder harness. 2nd and 5 at the 13-yard line. Moorhead is the motion man. And it's Peyton's first carry of the season. The Giants feel he fumbled, and the officials are saying, no, the ground caused the fumble. Leonard Marshall has the football, but only temporarily. It's still Chicago's ball.
I'd say they're hitting a little bit out there.
Yeah, I think so, Frank. Keep in mind the field can't cause the fumble. Let's see when Walter lost the ball. He still has it. He still has it. Oh, I can't see it from that angle. You could see the ball in his arm when he was still about 3 feet off the ground. We'll come back and take a look at that from another angle, I'm sure.
I suspect this is being reviewed. Now, remember, they have the line copy, what we call the line copy in the replay booth. That's what you saw originally, and they have replayed it and apparently have asked for a little more time.
From a field-level camera, let's look at it again. Now, Pepper Johnson's in the ground definitely there. You can see caused a fumble. Walter Payton had the ball when he hit the ground.
Art McNally, that's not the man in your shot there. Art McNally is the replay official tonight.
I don't think there's any doubt.
Review, the play stands as called on the field. Volume is down. It'll be third down.
How would you like to have reversed it in this crowd? It had your head to you.
Well, they did the proper thing. Walter clearly had the ball when he hit the turf. That's a dead ball.
Third down and 2. Fakes, and then a wobbly duck is incomplete. Tomczak dropped by Lawrence Taylor after he got rid of it. 4th down, and they'll punt.
Let's take a look in the middle. How do the Bears protect? That's good protection. Mike Tomczak, even though Taylor gets there late, keep in mind Tomczak had at least 4, maybe 5 seconds to go downfield to his second, maybe even his third receiver. So good job that time by the Bear offensive line.
Brian Wagner, who won the job from Maury Buford, has his punt blocked. And in the end zone, it's Tom Flynn for the touchdown. Flynn blocked the punt against Green Bay last year and scored a touchdown. It was blocked by Eric Howard, the backup to Jim Burden. Nose tackle, he blocked it, and Flynn picks picks up this year where he left off last year by scoring a touchdown.
Special teams, they will do it so frequently, and you saw a great example of it. Dan talked about it earlier in the pregame show. It pays off for the Giants right here. Good move by Howard. He comes around his man. He's right in the face.
Right from the right side, number 74, Eric Howard.
There it is.
Doesn't go for the punter, goes for the ball. 2 yards in front of the kicker and gets the block.
That's what they always must remember. You do not go for the kicker. You go in front of the punter, and that's where you're going to collide with the ball, and Howard was right on it.
Allegre for the extra point. Giants on top, 7-0. Keep another thing in mind. They're down to their number 3 snapper. John Addix was the snapper on the punt to Wagner. A high snap. Giants cash in. 7-0 New York.
Gale goes in for a touchdown.
The kickoff is fielded back at the 3-yard line by Thomas Sanders. And a good run back. Past the 30. And dropped at the 45-yard line.
Let's go back and look at it. Look at the key. This is Lawrence Taylor. He's going to occupy 3 people. Here's Eric Howard. Watch him work to the outside, come in and make the block. But look at Lawrence Taylor on the punt return team. Occupies 3 people in the middle. Eric Howard has the rush lane and makes the block. High-priced talent on a punt return team with Lawrence Taylor.
67, Will Johnson could have taken somebody.
First down, Chicago at the 45-yard line. The fake to take. Contact protected well, but knocked down by Carl Banks. And it's become fashionable to say that on the part of some, Banks is better than Taylor. Well, he's pretty good. Not much to choose between them.
I wouldn't want to tell either one of them that, but they are pretty good bookends on either side. The number 1 draft pick from 84, Carl Banks, has just almost improved with every game he's played. He was outstanding a year ago, and I'll tell you, you look to the left, you see Taylor most of the time. You look to the right, you see Banks. It's not fun.
Tom Jack is one of his first 3. Second down and 10 at the 45-yard line. Trying to set up the screen, and there's no blocking there and no catch made by Emory Moorhead. Third down. Tomczak played at Ohio State. One of the reasons he was not drafted, or a couple of reasons, he was hurt going into his senior year, and he was also very inconsistent. But the Bears picked him up. It came down to a choice between Chicago or Buffalo for Mike, and he opted for his old hometown.
And when you have a young man like Mike Tomczak playing in a game like this, that's not the kind of help he needs from his teammates. A veteran like Emory Moorhead has got to help him out better than that.
Third down and 10 from the 45-yard line. Pressure, and he gets it away, and it's complete. Dennis McKinnon making the catch, and appears to be a little shy of the first down. McKinnon missed all of last season. He was hurt, and now working his way back into the lineup, but it's 4th down and 1.
McKinnon really strong underneath. He works well. He doesn't have the great speed. Maybe not all the way back from that knee surgery following the Super Bowl 20, but he works well with Willie Gault. And Ron Morris, the rookie, number 2 draft pick out of SMU, has been spectacular for the Bears. They have 3 fine wide receivers, and the Bears are going to go for it.
First big decision of the game, 4th down and inches at the 45-yard line. And they don't get it. Neil Anderson, the new number 1 fullback, tossed by Eric Dorsey, who has taken over for George Martin as the Giants starter. And so it's Dorsey on 4th and 1, stopping Anderson, and New York takes over near midfield.
Collins, Taylor,
Eric Dorsey, Pepper Martin, Lawrence Taylor all in. And the Sanders kickoff return goes for naught. The Giants are strong.
This night in Chicago, and the much anticipated Giants-Bears confrontation underway with 9:44 to go in the first quarter, and the Giants on top, 7-0, and the Giants have the ball at the 46-yard line. Bill Sims gives it to Morris across the 50 and out of bounds near the 47-yard line. And that'll set up a second and about 4. The Giants, and we'll watch the offensive line tonight. Dan Dierdorf, for years, a great offensive tackle with St. Louis. The Giants have been a very cohesive unit. Then Carl Nelson contracted Hodgkin's disease, and they had to make the switch, and William Roberts is the man on the spot now.
Who's been a left tackle his entire career and is really having a difficult time making the move to the right side.
2nd and 4 from the 47. Morris close to a first down. It'll either be 3rd and short or 1st and 10. Wilbur Marshall made the tackle.
Let's take a look at William Roberts, number 66 at the right tackle position. Chris Godfrey, his guard, is going to put Mike Singletary on the ground. There's the key that actually makes the play go. Roberts is attempting to seal it off to the inside. And the Giants, I think, are stunning the Bear defense with their ability right now to run the football.
Roberts came in, a number 1 draft pick in '84, and won a starting spot before he had a very serious knee injury and missed the following season, and he is playing that off position.
It's a 1st and 10, and it's Carson going through the middle. Not only will they miss Nelson because of his individual talent, and we have the game's first penalty, but the Giants were such a cohesive unit. Last year, they were the only team in the league that had all 5 interior offensive linemen start every game. Call is against New York.
And, of course, the difficulties of the Giants compensating. Let's get the
Illegal
call.
motion, number 84, 5 yards, still first down.
Moat.
The difficulties the Giants have in replacing Carl Nelson with William Roberts kind of pale in comparison to the struggle that Carl Nelson is having to undergo right now. And I know all of us would like to wish him well, and
You bet.
he's got an opportunity to come back and play next year. But William Roberts has big shoes to fill. Carl Nelson may have been their best run blocker up front.
1st and 15 at the 47-yard line. Manuel in motion. Bears jump. Morris takes it to the 45-yard line. Singletary came flying across, but there's no flag.
Well, I think we're starting to see the Bear defense get a little ornery. I thought Singletary was extremely close to being offsides, Frank. He timed that as well as you could.
No flag, but he had a hole to fill when he handed off to Morris. Let's take a look at it.
There's
Watch
Mike
Singletary right from the middle. He'll come right through the gap, and he's very quick. He reads it well. He's a very bright, cerebral-type football player. There he has a hand on Phil as he hands off to Morris, and the Giants pick up some yardage from it, and very fortunate to get it.
That's a Ben Johnson type start. 2nd down and 11. Morris is flicked to the right. Morris is a wide receiver on this play, but he goes over the middle, does Sims, and it's incomplete. Intended for Manuel. So the Giants showing a different look to the Bears early on, with Joe wide to the right. Manuel going over the middle.
Manuel is so sure-handed. That was right in his hands. Manuel missed, of course, much of last season, injured in the 4th game. Was off to a great year a year ago. But he's back. When he's in there, he gives the Giants a different dimension. He is, without a doubt, their finest pass receiver.
3rd and 11. Giants lead 7-0. 7:56 to go in the period. With 4 receivers out into the pattern, over the middle and incomplete. The pass intended for Tony Galbraith.
Phil was just getting a little antsy. He was getting crowded back there, and he wanted to unload that thing and save the sack. They had those dancing feet. He had a lot of time. There just was good coverage downfield on the part of the Bears secondary.
Now Sean Lindetta, and there's only a breeze tonight. He's thrilled about that. Back deep is Dennis McKinnon. A wobbly angle kick. It takes a good Chicago bounce and is down at the 23-yard line. And is a confrontation that begins to break out. There's also a penalty marker down on the play.
I think because of the high snap, the Giants went downfield early. The high snap threw Landeta out of his rhythm, and some of his cover men left early.
Might have been Bart Oates. Anyway, the official tonight, the referee is Jim Tunney. In conference now with the back judge, and the back judge is Tom Stifferman. All right, Jim. What's happening? Inquiry
All
lines
setting
want to know.
fouls. An eligible man downfield on the kicking team. Personal foul, number 45 on the defense. Personal foul on the offense. Replay, 4th down.
Look at this interior group in the middle. They can't leave until the ball is snapped. Now the high snap is going to throw them out of their rhythm. On a night like tonight with a lot of crowd noise, 3 of them in the middle. Left took a yard downfield step before the kick. Can't do it, but Gary Fensick's penalty means we'll do it again.
Again, Landeta second in the league last year in gross average to Ron Stark of Indianapolis. McKinnon is back. McKinnon at the 9-yard line. And Dennis brings it back to the 20, and we've got another penalty marker down. Another flag down in the direction of Reggie Phillips, who may have clipped on a play. Phillips getting tangled up with Mark Collins. And again, Tony will confirm, we'll get the call.
Illegal block on the return. Number 48, 10 yards. First down, Chicago.
It is Phillips. And it will move the ball back to the 6-yard line. Here it is.
Phillips is number 48, clearly from behind. He smothers Mark Collins. 3 penalties on 1 punt. Not a real good exhibition.
For Monday Night Magic. There was magic on the sidelines last week at East Lansing, watching his alma mater take on USC, and here he is in Chicago tonight, making his way back to the coast very slowly.
And watching a hard-hitting football game, I can tell you that for sure.
Giants ahead, 7-zip. Bears have the ball at their own 6 after the punt and penalty. And they keep it on the ground, and it's Walter Payton trying to run through the middle, and he's dropped by Harry Carson after a gain of 1. The steady one.
Love to watch Carson. He's been around now for 12 years. Just seems to step right up in there. He reads it very quickly, and he can still make the collisions. There he is, coming off his 8th Pro Bowl in the past 9 years. He is the heart and soul, really, of that defense. They look up to him. They believe in him.
2nd and 9. Tomzak flushed out and lost it into traffic and out of bounds. Intended for Emory Moorhead as the pass started to float, and Kenny Hill was covering on the play.
So far, the Giants have not been affected by the loss of Terry Williams, their ordinary starting quarterback, who is out on injured reserve with a pinched nerve in the neck. And they are down to just 2 cornerbacks. Elvis Patterson and Mark Collins started there tonight. The only other cornerback they have really is a safety man. That's Herb Welch. Thus far, the Bears have been unable to exploit that.
6:47 remaining in the first quarter. The Giants with a big advantage in total yards, and the difference on the scoreboard is special teams. The block punt. Shotgun. On 3rd and 9. Good protection, and over the middle, complete to the 20 to Anderson for a first down. Out of Florida, he's a big man. He's the starting fullback right now, but he also has great hands. We'll throw to him a lot this year.
The dimension he brings to that backfield that the man he replaced, Matt Suey, does not. Now watch Lawrence Taylor, and he attracts the crowd. He draws Colbert, and he picks up Sports. He sees that all season long, and he still almost gets there.
1st and 10, Chicago from the 20-yard line. Moorhead in the slot and in motion. Tomzak, incomplete, intended for goal, covered by 4 Giants. Among the quartet was Harry Carson. One thing about Tomzak, and we had a chance to visit with him yesterday, for a kid who's a free agent and under a lot of pressure, remarkably poised and apparently very, very confident as well, at least on the outside.
You have to be pulling for him. He came in a free agent 3 years ago, was winner of 7 of his starts a year ago. He had 3 touchdown passes. He had 10 interceptions, and he has really got a different attitude this year. Also technique.
2nd and 10 with Payton in motion. Anderson, nice cutback, 30, and drop Wonderful tackle by Terry Kennard.
That's why Ditka wants him in there. You saw him a moment ago as a receiver. One of the things that Matsui, who can block so well, could not do, the longtime starter for the Bears. But Anderson, #1 draft pick a couple of years ago out of Florida, is a great running back. Here he reads the hole, reads the draw play beautifully, sees that Hunt is in the hole, steps it back to the right side, turns on the speed, and we know he can fly. The final game a year ago against Dallas, 58 yards for a touchdown, and Mike Ditka decided, I just got to get him in there.
At the 38-yard line. Bears on the move with Payton in motion. Anderson stays in the block, and Tomczak goes for Moorhead, and he can't hold on to the 45-yard line. Hit by Kennard as the ball came to him. Second down. The Giants in the secondary, Frank touched on the corners, and remember now, Kennard coming back off surgery.
If you look at that play, what happened, Mike Tomczak had Emery Moorhead and really waited too long to throw him the football. Terry Kennard was to the far side of the field. Moorhead was open for about 8 or 9 yards before he got to Terry Kennard. That was clearly a play. If Mike Tomczak could have made that throw just a split second earlier, that would have been a completion.
2nd and 10. And over the middle again for Anderson, incomplete. He couldn't get his hands positioned right. He was there and the ball was there. Looked like he couldn't get his hands in the right position. 3rd down.
He was there, and Tomczak just had a little too much on it.
The protection by the Bear offensive line is flawless. Look at the field of vision Mike Tomczak has, but you can see that ball just sails. He had to put it up in the air. Pepper Johnson had the coverage underneath. Kennard had it long. A well-timed leap by Anderson, and did you see him have his hands on the ball and then looks at Kennard?
That'll happen.
Got to look at the ball all the way in.
They've met. 3rd and 10. Tomczak steps up deftly and hits Anderson. He has the first down. He's inside the Giant 40, the 30, puts on a nice move and takes it to the 15-yard line.
New star is born. He's waited to get in there. He can do so many things. That time he turned what a lot of backs would have had, a short gainer, into a big gainer.
The key here is go to the side of the blitzer. Look at Lawrence Taylor come from the top. Picked up by Jimbo Colbert. That opens up that side of the field. Tomczak reads it. No one there to pick up Anderson. Andy heading way off his assigned man. And Anderson down the sideline for 47. But the good read by Tomczak goes to the area vacated by Lawrence Taylor on the blitz.
1st and 10 at the 15-yard line. On the ground, and this time it's Calvin Thomas, the big fullback, at 250 pounds in his 6th year out of Illinois, who spells Anderson and gains a couple. We've mentioned before, last year the Bears, and look at that, inside the 20-yard line, scoring a touchdown only 38% of the time, worst in the league. And the league average, as you see, is slightly more than half.
Thus far for the Bears, a very quiet Walter Payton, as Neil Anderson has been shouldering most of the work.
2nd and 9. Tomczak looks to Payton, has Walter at the 10-yard line, and that's all. He is 4 yards shy of a first down. It'll be a big 3rd and 4 coming up. Carson making the stop.
That time the Bears brought Matsui into the lineup, kept him back in to protect Mike Tomczak. He didn't have to pick up anyone, releasing Walter out into the pattern. A versatile player is Walter Payton. His hands are as good as his legs. There's not much he can't do.
This drive, remember, started at Chicago's 6-yard line. So thus far, 4 yards with Tomczak at the helm. It's 3rd and 4 at the 10. And Tomczak hooks it out to Shuey, and Shuey is down to about the 7-yard line. So here's Ditka's first decision now. 4th down and a yard at the 7.
Get first by Carl Banks.
4th and 1, 2:15 to go in the first period. Parcells awaiting Ditka's decision, and he's going him to go for 3.
And how much of his decision was based upon the fact that he's already tried it once on 4th and 1 and got stuffed at the line of scrimmage? You have to think of this field position, given these circumstances.
24-yard field
He go ahead and go for the first down, but I think Mike has lost a little confidence up front.
Kevin Butler with Jim Harbaugh, the rookie, holding. 24-yard attempt. And good. So a nice, well-conceived, well-run drive by Tom Zach results in 3. A minute 39 to go in the period. 7-3 Giants. Separated with Mike Lupica, biggest Giant of them all. We saw him this morning, and I said, well, if it isn't the best-selling author. And he said, yeah, me and Tolstoy. His team on top by a score of 7-3.
He's had a lot of fun on game day. Here's another one's had a lot of fun on game day, Mike Ditka. I don't know whether he's got a book out. He's got a book out too, doesn't he? He owns Chicago, as a matter of fact.
A book, a video, a few restaurants. Ryan Wagner, who at the punt block, is the kickoff man, and it's a short kick. And it's fielded up at the 14 by George Adams. And Adams loses the football. Out of bounds it goes.
They're going to say he was down. They're going to say he was down.
And that is the call. Initially, let's see. Tunney with the side judge. That's Nate Jones in on the call. Wagner eventually came up with a football.
You know what kind of football game you have, and you see all these balls coming loose. There's some real pounding going on. Let's take a look at it again. Adams, of course, coming back after missing a year, and a real addition to the Giants' offense. Hammering into Gary Finsick, and when you want a collision, just call on number 45, Gary Finsick, and he clearly was down. So the Giants will maintain possession and the first down. That's Eddie Hughes on the right, or to the left of Mike Ditka. He's the offensive coordinator, was a fellow coach of Mike Ditka's, and Ditka was coaching down with the Dallas Cowboys.
The delay here is because they are taking a look, and now they say it stands at the 31-yard line. 1st and 10 for the Giants. Sims goes over the middle, and there's the first catch of the season for Mark Bavaro, who had such a fabulous year in his second season last year, and he begins 1987 with a catch with a minute 11 to go in the period.
What a graphic illustration of the way Phil Simms has grown up, though. He looked over to Stacy Robinson. That's where he wanted to go. He turned around with no hesitation. He knew where Bavaro was going to be. He popped it to him and gets the first down.
Bavaro lining up on the left side. That's the strong side for this play out of the I formation at the 47-yard line. Toss to Morris. And he's wrapped up by Steve McMichael in his 8th year out of Texas, who has started every Bear game over the last 3 years. A great front four. McMichael, a fellow who had a rather ignominious beginning to his career, picked by the Pats in the draft and then waived by them.
William Perry, the fridge. Brad Benson, number 60, the left tackle. Go low on the big guy. That allows Joe Morris to turn it up. William Perry has gone through countless drills, jumping over a blocker. That time he didn't make it.
2nd and 8 in the waning seconds of the first quarter. Sims wrapped up, sacked at the 40-yard line. Mike Singletary and Wilbur Marshall in tandem.
And great coverage downfield as well. When you bring that many people, you have got to have single coverage somewhere. Phil Simms just did not have the time to find it.
Here's Mike Singletary already lined up on the inside, but watch it. Good protection initially by the Giants. Phil Simms has time up front. He looks downfield to find a receiver. When a quarterback gets back there and plants, he's got time. He should have thrown it.
Not a helter-skelter defense at all. Good coverage downfield, good penetration. Phil Simms just with no receiver open, couldn't get there.
We start the second quarter. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf. Opening night in Chicago. Giants on top 7-3. And as the second quarter starts, it's 3rd and 16. From the 40, Sims sacked again back at the 30-yard line. Back-to-back sacks. This time McMichael shooting straight in and Wilson blitzing from his linebacker spot.
But the Bears only sent 4 people that time. Wilson came from a down position, and the Giants, even from the shotgun, could not make the coverage and protect Phil Simms.
Here's Otis Wilson. He's going to work against William Roberts. That's a linebacker against the tackle. That's a block Roberts has to make.
You have to.
He just doesn't drop deep enough. Wilson beats him to the corner.
And then a punting on 4th and 27. Taken by McKinnon at the 26. And back out he comes to the 40-yard line. So the Bears have the ball, and this ABC Sports exclusive is being brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, engineered like no other car in the world. Mike Ditka, beginning his 6th season as the head coach at Chicago, and he's now signed through 1990. Calvin Thomas is the fullback in this set. Moorhead in motion. And it's Walter Payton for a gain of 3 as he goes to the middle, and he is stopped by the man in the middle of the Giants line, Jim Burt, number 64.
Lawrence Taylor's going to line up to the outside, but he's just not an upfield rusher. He'll fight off a blocker and work back to the inside. Into the face of Jim Covert, reading it back to the inside. Plants, gets a helmet, in on the tackle of Walter Payton with about another 6 New York Giants. This guy is just not that upfield flash. He'll stick his face in it when he has to.
2nd and 7 now from the 43-yard line. Anderson is back in the game, and it's Payton again with the football. Walter coming back the other way for a gain of 3 more, and it's Taylor making the stop.
And vintage Lawrence Taylor, he is ever so quick. That's what he says is his greatest attribute. Now watch him. He looks upfield, reads it to the inside. Now he gets caught inside, but he has that quickness, reads it again to the outside, gets out there to make the stop, and he catches Payton after only a pickup about 1.5 yards or 2 yards. What an athlete he is.
Taylor, the league's MVP, first defensive player since Alan Page to win the award. 3rd down and 4. Tom Back has it tipped, and it's incomplete. He was looking toward Gentry.
New York Giants, 51 yards rushing. They dominated the line of scrimmage running the football, even though the Bears have the advantage in total offense, but the turnover, that's good for a touchdown. Giants on top, 7-3. Now get the ball again, Al.
Wagner, who had his first ever regular season punt block. Remember, he's the guy who had the 8-yard kick in Denver and then was traded to Chicago and beat out Buford. And again, the rush is on. He gets it away. Not a thing of beauty, but it gets down to the 13-yard line. And Phil McConkey, and the sure-handed overachiever, takes it out to the 27-yard line. And again, a high snap that time from Addix. So the Giants have it when we come back. Giants from the 28-yard line on 1st down, and movement with Bavaro. An array of flags.
They're after Mark Bavaro. He's already been in a scrape with Richard Dent, and this time Todd Bell gives him a little kiss to the chops. Clearly Mark is offsides. Original contact was with Hampton, but watch Todd Bell come in here. Hi, Mark. Oh, Bavaro starts it. Bavaro gives him a shove first. We may have multiple flags.
Offense, number 89, 5 yards, still 1st down.
No other penalty.
A little finger pointed at Todd Bell, but he does not get the penalty. Bavaro, the quiet one. He's the one that Bill Parcells says he'd like to go to war with. He is tough. He doesn't say much. He just does it all with his actions. He's having a hard time getting off the line of scrimmage, however.
1st and 15. Giants on. 1st and 15. Giants on top 7-3. 12:44 to play in the half. 2 tight end sets. Flips it out to Carson. And he's out to the 30-yard line where Mike Singletary makes the tackle, and it will be second down and about 8 upcoming. Singletary, the man in the middle of that fearsome threesome for Chicago. Hampered last year by a groin pull. He missed a couple of games, felt he came back a little early. Feels great, though, in 87.
Remember, we showed you William Perry attempting to jump over a blocker, not making it. That's exactly how you do it. Mike Singletary making the leap over Zeke Moss.
Second and 8. Morris escapes a tackle from McMichael and turns a loss into a gain as he takes it up to the 32-yard line.
Bears are getting the penetration they did not get in the early going. They are into that backfield on almost every play. It's almost like you can see them building and building and building.
I can hear them building and building.
You literally can hear it all the way up here.
Third and 5. Third down, that means Galbraith comes in. He was the man on the bubble that made the cut. The final 45, and McConkey's also in the game.
And, of course, the key receiver for the Giants on so many third down occasions.
McConkey in motion. Sims from the gun. Flips it out to the near side to Galbraith. And the all-time leader among running backs in receptions in the history of the league takes it out to the 43-yard line.
Tony Galbraith is really on the bubble going into this season. Been around for a long time. Started his career in New Orleans, went up to Minnesota. The Giants have had him, and as Al pointed out, the all-time leading receiver for setbacks. And that, of course, will go down in the books as a running play because it was a lateral. And no matter what it reads in the books, it reads first down.
So it adds to his rushing total. He's the oldest running back in the league at 33. From the 44-yard line. Sims, incomplete and tipped. Richard Dent really put a hit on Sims, and Phil is still down.
Phil got sandwiched that time. He's lying on top of Joe Morris and can't even move far enough for Morris to get up. Caught in the crossfire that time, Phil Sims.
Quickly up is Jeff Rutledge, but of more concern right now is Phil Sims. He remains prostrate on the carpet.
And Rutledge is a guy who threw one pass all of last year.
Joe Morris staying in to block. Now Phil's going to be forced to move to his right a little bit, but right in the chops. Richard Dent puts the helmet right in the neck of Phil Sims. The completion of the play doesn't mean a whole lot as Phil is still on the ground.
And this, for the moment, is about the worst sight that Bill Parcells can see.
Phil Sims came into the night with 48 consecutive starts, along with Dan Marino, the most durable two quarterbacks with the running streak going. As we look at it again, he has been very durable in his early years, often prone to injuries, but again, you saw the collision. Dent and Sims.
And that was helmet to helmet. Richard Dent beat Billy Ard around the corner, and you could see Phil's helmet snap at the impact of Dent's helmet, meeting him right in the ear hole.
And if you've never been inside one of those, Dan, it's hard to explain how loud that is in there. And the head just sort of rattles around like a peanut.
Well, that's a good sight as Sims is able to walk off under his own power, but because the timeout had been called, he has to come out for at least one play.
And when plastic meets plastic, there are shock waves you feel through your whole body. That's Wilbur Marshall upfield, but here comes Richard Dent. Oh, look at the impact as he just hits Phil Sims right in the ear hole. And Phil says, I'm staying down for a while.
They will be very careful. They'll look Phil Sims over. That could produce a concussion so easily, and they'll be very careful before they get him back in it.
Now the Giants are going with just two quarterbacks, one of 19 teams to opt for only a pair, and so it's Rutledge at the 44. He threw one pass last year, and that was off a fake field goal. So the sparingly used Rutledge goes to the air, and it's incomplete. Rutledge last season, one complete pass, one completed out of 3 attempts, and here comes Sims again. And that's the rule. If they have to take a timeout for an injury, even if you're all right, you still have to come out for that one play.
He must have convinced him, I'm all right, I'm in Chicago. And the score is 7-3. They would give him the rundown. You've had it, Dan. And he obviously passed it.
3rd and 10 as he comes up in the shotgun from the 44. Stays in the rolling pocket and then throws out of bounds. And there's a flag down on another hit this time by Otis Wilson.
Laid on Sims.
And so what would have been a punting situation instead will have a different result.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness on the quarterback, number 55, 15 yards, first down.
Well, they don't fool around about that anymore. It's probably a good thing because quarterbacks are so vulnerable once they release that ball. But anything, they are calling it even more quickly than they have in the past.
And that's a big penalty. It's not only a first down, it keeps possession for the Giants instead of the Bears getting the ball back as it moves it to the Chicago 41. 10:15 to play, first half. Giants on top 7-3. Giants scoring on a blocked punt. First and 10. Sims to Morris. Out of bounds at the 37-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 6.
Saw Todd Bell come up there and make the pop on Morris. We'll go back and take a look at the penalty now. Phil Sims is looking. Finally just unloads it, throws it out of bounds to save the sack or the interception. And here comes the pop by Otis Wilson. Well, the mistake, and it's very reminiscent of Charles Martin's play on Jim McMahon, is that, all right, clearly he's in the grass, the ball is long gone, and then like 2 seconds later, Otis Wilson throws him to the ground. Now, it didn't have the same effect, but you don't expect a veteran to make a mistake like that, like Otis Wilson just made.
2nd and 6. Parsons can't get started. Dan Hampton stopped him in his tracks, number 99.
Have you noticed the subtle little shift here? In the first quarter, the Giants were moving the Bear defensive line off the ball. This game is now being played in the New York backfield, whether it's a pass or a run. That time, Dan Hampton just sliced to the inside on William Roberts and made him look bad. They're getting that penetration they did not get in the early going. And it is starting to build. Giants need something big, and I know they know it. Just to quiet things down, to quiet the Bear defense down.
It's going to be 3rd and 7. And it's also going to be a timeout, Giants. So Sims goes to the sideline with 9:30 to play in the first half, and the Giants ahead 7-3. 38-yard line, Lee Roussan is in, number 22, along with Parson, who stays in the block. And finally, they get to Sims, and the floater is incomplete. He had initial great protection, as much as he could have hoped for. And after the play, it's Wilson and Sims renewing acquaintances again, and a few others.
Yeah, that's just terrific coverage. Deep, plenty of protection, Dan. Plenty of protection, Frank. And it's interesting what the Bears are doing. They're putting Otis Wilson at defensive end. They're taking William Perry out. Here's Otis Wilson. He's going to rush on William Roberts, but they're taking Perry out, and because of the speed, it's Otis Wilson, and he's going to go clear upfield and loop all the way back into the play and hit Phil Sims from behind. Excellent hustle that time by Otis Wilson.
So on 4th and 7, it's Landeta in to kick. And the Bears, thinking the Giants may be pulling something here, only have Duerson back deep. And here go the Giants now shifting. Remember, Rutledge is there. He's the quarterback. He's under center. The Bears not really fooled. A lot of their key defensive people are still in there.
They'll just run the clock out, and they were just going to look it over. They're in so close inside the 40, they don't mind the 5-yard penalty. If they would have got a certain kind of a lineup by the Bears defensively, they would have gone with the play. They looked it over. The Bears were ready for it. They didn't do it. It didn't hurt them a great deal with Landeta being able to punt like he can. They'll just back him up 5 and
Delay
punt
penalty
away.
is accepted. The yardage is declined. 4th down, same spot.
Now that was a good example of a couple heavyweights sparring right there. A big league play by the Giants, and the Bears defensively just played it as good as you could.
Absolutely. Instead of sending McKinnon back, they had Duerson still in the game as a deep man, and they still have him in down at the 10-yard line.
Penalty, by the way, declined.
So it's still 4th and 7. And he kicks it into the end zone.
And a good decision by declining it. It might have forced Landeta to go deep, carrying it into the end zone, getting the touchback, and it'll get the Bears ball out on the 20. Not much of a pickup. Landeta choosing not to go for the corner. He tried to hang one high, he didn't get it, and he gets the touchback instead.
It's Soldier Field. He just wants to make contact.
Well, you know, it's really a lot easier to pooch it down the middle of the field and get the play than it is to angle to the sideline. So many times they try to angle it, they miss-hit it, and they end up getting about an 8 or 9 net yard punt. That time you just hit it a little too sweet.
Now the Bears at their own 20. Giants ahead 7-3, 9:15 to go in the half. And too high for Walter Payton. Payton, just a few passes behind Galbraith. We mentioned that Tony is the all-time leading receiver among running backs, but if Payton has a typical Payton year, it'll sort of be like it was years ago when Nolan Ryan and Steve Carlton were going hand in hand for the strikeout mark.
Don't you love that record he has, though? One of the many records. 169th consecutive start tonight. That's for running back. That's just amazing. Most in the NFL at the moment. The top running back other than Walter Payton is Cincinnati's James Brooks with 33.
And a bunch of flags, and Tom Sayer is in the middle of this one, number 57.
Oh, he didn't say it was going to be pretty.
Number 57. 5 yards. Still second down.
Just to pick up on what you said, Frank, just to put it in perspective, Payton has started every game for the last 11 years. 2 other backs, Brooks and Kurt Warner, are the only 2 other backs in the league who started every game in the last 2 years.
It's amazing. And he's a running back. That's what's the amazing part of it.
Second down and 15 at the 15. Anderson. And he's out of bounds at the 23-yard line. A nice compliment to Walter Payton. He's driven out by Elvis Patterson into the horde of photographers and helped up by Jim McMahon.
Bill Parcells, he would not work out here last night. He is superstition. He admits it. He would not work out at Pasadena. The first time the Giants saw the Rose Bowl was when they played the Super Bowl in it. That came about because he worked out in Dallas in the opening game a year ago. The night before the game, they lost. They worked out against Seattle. The night before the game, they lost there. That was it as far as Bill Parcells was concerned.
Meanwhile, McMahon on the sidelines and on injured reserve at least for 6 weeks. Third down and 7 at the 23. Tom Zach and an interception at the 40-yard line by Herb Wells. On a miscommunication, the intended receiver, Gentry, not even looking back as Tom Zach threw. And so Wells, the nickel back out of UCLA, the backup corner and one-time safety, makes the interception.
And a 12th round draft pick. Let's look at it again. This is the second consecutive bad pass that Tom Zach has thrown. He threw one to Payton a moment ago that should have been picked off. This was poorly thrown. Actually, right back in the middle of it. It looked like he might have even got a finger on it. Yeah, Banks deflected that ball. Carl Banks got a hand on it. Alternate course. That might have been a completed pass. And could just as well have been an interception by Banks.
First down, Giants at the Chicago 34-yard line. Morris initially missing him. Todd Bell. And then Morris runs into a gang and he stopped after a minimal gain.
Yeah, this is why Todd Bell, Mike Ditka wants him in there, Dan. Well, he's the best hitter in the secondary. And Joe Morris actually trips over the legs of Billy Ard and goes down. But you're right, Todd Bell is, what's the old saying, plays with reckless abandon? Well, he's taking it to a new level. He's always around the collision. Well, his needing to be in the lineup has put Gary Fensick on the bench.
Meanwhile, Rutledge has come back in now on second down and 9. And Rutledge is greeted with a sack at the 40-yard line. Singletary and Wilson again doing a double team act.
If you're going to go back in the pocket, have a plan. Jeff Rutledge this time looks like it all happened too quickly. He goes back and plants, looks had the first shot, but he really never even got his arm in a position to throw. Rutledge had the appearance of a man who went back there and really had absolutely no idea to do once he was there.
So Sims on the bench, 3rd and 16. Rutledge out of the shotgun from the 39-yard line. Going deep for Robinson, and he can't hold on. Bestie Jackson was back there with him. The second-year man out of Washington who's done a good job at corner.
And it could just as well have been picked off. It was great positioning by Jackson. A pass that I'm sure that Phil Simms would not have thrown. Had he thrown it, he would have thrown it much deeper, even out of the end zone. Look at Jackson. Lets him get by him. Sprints into it. Reads his eyes. He sees those eyes. He knows the ball is coming and is right there.
Landeta to kick now. And again, Landeta kicks it right down the middle, and it's a touchback. So Landeta's had 2 opportunities to go for the corner. Instead, he kicks it into the end zone. That's pretty good for the gross average. Not too terrific for the net. 7-3 Giants.
IBM presents You Make the Call. Just after Neil Lomax of the Cardinals has thrown a pass downfield, a Buccaneer blitzer who had been attempting to block the pass strikes a glancing blow to the side of the quarterback's helmet. Now you make the call. Is this illegal action by the Buccaneer blitzer? Never permissible to strike any player in the head at any time.
Out of the ball game.
Dan and I have both been in that funny world as the Twilight Zone when you can just almost know where you are. You're almost aware of what's happening. But I think Phil Simms has just decided, I've been brave enough. I may be hurting this ball club.
And he did decide it himself. He removed himself from the ball game. He said he was dazed and dizzy and has been administered some smelling salts on the sidelines. And you can't go by outward appearances. He may have a little double vision. He could be groggy. He could be, who knows what's going on. And a quarterback less than 100% isn't a whole lot of help to his ball club.
Bears take over at their own 20. Giants ahead 7-3 midway through the second quarter. Takes the pace. Going deep for Gold. Incomplete. Willie had gotten by Terry Kennard, but also back there helping up on the play is Mark Collins. So the speedster, who had a good preseason, it's incomplete.
Well, I'm not surprised that the Bears tried to go to work on Terry Kennard with Willie Gault. Willie, that time, running an unusual fly pattern to the middle of the field. He went by Kennard, who was playing the free safety, and a good 30, 35 yards down the field. He went by Kennard like Kennard's feet were in cement.
A little better touch by Tomczak, and we would be looking at an 80-yard fair touchdown.
2nd and 10, you know why Parcells is scared of Gault when you saw the yards per catch average through his career, and that would figure from a sprinter. 2nd down and 10 at the 20. Anderson taken down on a nice play by Pepper Johnson because Anderson tried to straight arm him and Pepper stayed right with him and took him down at the 19-yard line. The man replacing for the moment anyway, Gary Reasons, who held out.
Dan spoke of the sparring that goes on the football field. The Giants were up there showing blitz all the way. Tomczak changed it off to the play that he had been given when he got that particular blitz. And the Giants automatic out of the blitz. Harry Carson reading what Tomczak had done, and it just continues to go that way. Little punch here, little jab there.
3rd down and 11 from the 19-yard line. Four-man rush, good protection, and a doubling catch at the 38-yard line by Ron Morris. The rookie receiver out of SMU, drafted in the 2nd round behind Harbaugh, and Ron Morris makes his first professional catch.
2 things happen. The Bears come with only 4 men up front. You see Colbert take Taylor clear to the inside. Look at the time that Tomczak has. Morris just breaks his move to the inside, and Welch gave him the move, and hands of flypaper. That's what Mike Ditka said about Ron Morris. And Willie Gault, what's he say? Looks like James Lofton. High praise.
And he says Morris has no problem going over the middle. He's in motion from the 38-yard line. Quick opener. Neil Anderson exploits it to the 45-yard line. Stopped by Harry Carson. It'll be 2nd down and 3, and the clock ticking down to 5:35 to go in the half.
And a gradual changing of the guard. We talked about it earlier. Walter Payton says this will be his final year. And, of course, you can look forward to a lot of years from Neil Anderson. But Ron Morris, whom we saw a moment ago, teamed with Willie Galt, will give the Bears definitely a very different dimension in the passing game. Both good outside receivers.
2nd down and 3 at the 45-yard line. Anderson for a gain of a couple. Lawrence Taylor makes the stop. We were out at the Bears camp yesterday talking to Peyton, and we said, hey, Walter, no kid now. Your final year? He says, this is it, make no mistake.
Well, he did it a lot better than that. No one pursues down the line of scrimmage better than Lawrence Taylor. Sees it going the other way, goes flat, gains some ground upfield, and on the line of scrimmage makes contact with Neil Anderson. Now, Anderson's momentum carried him forward a yard, but there's no one in the game that does it better than that.
You know, he told me Thursday he's weighing 250 pounds, and he carries it well.
3rd and 1. Calvin Thomas is in the game, and Moorhead's in motion, and they give it to Walter. And he should have the 1st down, at least from our vantage point with the naked eye. And Eric Dorsey and Harry Carson are in on the tackle. 1st down, Chicago at the 49. Soldier Field on the lakefront. Bears talking about hopeful of getting a new stadium, but among other things here, they're going to change the surface next year from turf back to grass. Unanimously applauded by 90 guys on our speed cart. I know that.
Especially those veterans with the wobbly knees.
The players universally would much prefer to play on a grass field.
1st and 10, Chicago at the 49. And a little pass and a little gain. Willie Galt. Collins contending it should be his ball, but he's a party of 1.
Mark Collins really stunned the Giants when he came up a year ago. He was a starter almost from the moment he got here. He didn't take over until a little later on when Elvis Patterson was injured. But let's take a look at it again. He's reading Galt. He knew that Galt was not going to get by him. He has great confidence for a second-year man. If Galt tried to go by him, he would have given him a terrific shot.
Willie really used his speed on that pattern, didn't he?
2nd and 8 at the 49. Over the middle and into traffic and completed the 32 to Willie Galt over the middle.
Well thrown ball by Tom Zach because it was good coverage by Collins. He was right with Galt all the way. Tom Zach maybe zeroed in on him with his eyes a little more quickly than he should have, but Galt breaks it off. Collins is there. Had to be thrown awfully well. He zips it in and gets the 1st down.
And the New York Giants are going to have to change their philosophy up front. Look at the lack of pressure on Tom Zach. And that is as well as you could throw it between 3 converging New York Giants. But look at Kennard, 43. How far out of the picture he is. He's got to get in on that play.
1st and 10 at the 33-yard line. Tom Zach too high again. 2nd time he has overshot Peyton. Walter is 5'10", needed to be 6'2".
How could he throw that one so beautifully just a moment ago? And, of course, he's frustrated himself with it. But that's twice now. He's trying to get the ball out on that little pass to Walter Payton and is overthrown it. And Ditka is really exercised on the sidelines. Now, he'll give you a little emotion out there.
Frank, how often do we say that that's the most difficult pass for a quarterback to throw? And I think a lot of people don't believe us. They'd say, my God, the pass 30 or 40 yards downfield has to require more touch. Not so. I think we're seeing why it's so difficult.
And they're moving right away from him.
2nd and 10. Tom Zach takes a real shot, and it's incomplete, and there are flags all over the joint in the secondary. Kennard and Gould.
And Elvis Patterson just knocks Mike Tomczak into a complete somersault. Let's begin right in the middle.
Defense, number 43, 1st down.
2 Pro Bowlers, Hilgenberg and Burt. But the protection was there, but it forced Tomczak back a little bit. But here comes Patterson. A legal hit. He took his 1 step. As long as it's only one, you still get that shot on the quarterback. And if you're going to run all that way, you might as well get a hit on the QB, and that time Elvis did.
And Patterson comes off limping, and that's the last thing the Giants need right now because they're already shy at the corners.
Nothing a defensive player hates more than limping off the field after hitting the cornerback. He's still in the game, and you're out.
The penalty was on Kennard. Wells comes in at corner,
And it won't take them long to find him.
he's a safety by trade. Keep it on the ground on first down, and it's Neil Anderson for next to nothing. 2:10 remaining in the half as they massage Patterson, and he'll get a couple of extra minutes to work that kick out because we have come to the 2-minute warning.
That probably is a cramp, and the Giants are certainly hoping that it is.
Not much scoring, but a lot of slightly better ground attack. And then when you take a look at the passing yardage, and if New York had one big advantage here, position by position, it's a QB, but the Bears with a big edge in the air.
Not unlike the game we thought we'd see, though, Al and Dan. This is a Giants-Bears game. Cosmetically, not something to write home about, but there is some tremendous hitting going on. They could change dramatically on any play.
2 minutes to go in the half. Second down and 9. Matt Shuey is in the game. And they give it to Payton. And Walter is taken down out of bounds by Kenny Hill at the 17-yard line. The Bears have all of their timeouts remaining, all 3.
Nothing new watching Walter Payton go around end. That time his right guard, Tom Thayer, got the block, turning the corner, pulling all the way across the formation. And Walter Payton, of all his thousands of yards, the majority came around the end. The man has a tremendous ability to run the sweep, set up his blockers, very reminiscent in that respect, Frank, of Jimmy Brown.
And I did a little math the other day, and with Walter Payton works out to a little over 9 miles in rushing. And if you figure you're getting knocked down every 4.5 yards with that 9 miles, you've been on the pad a few times. Still a remarkable injury-free career.
Well, the Bears, interestingly, had to take a timeout here, spend a timeout after a play that went out of bounds, and that's one they really didn't want to use necessarily. Again, Frank talked with Lawrence Taylor. Some of you who saw the pregame show saw the beginning of that, and we'll finish that up, and we'll take a look back at some of the upsets yesterday. Also some other football news. Taylor talking about the involvement with drugs. Taylor, one of those who is part of what we would call the Giants Book of the Month Club, and there have been 11 of them. LT living on the edge.
It's a very revealing talk with Lawrence.
I'll do anything to get to Soldier Field. Better hope there's not a playoff game here.
Third down and 3 now. Anderson and Sanders are the running backs, and Moorhead sets up in the slot to the right. Anderson for the first down to the 3-yard line.
Oh, he's something.
The block by Tom Thayer, the left guard, really sprung him.
But what a great glide by Anderson. You can see when they took him number 1 a couple of years ago. Watch him coming right at you. You'll see the block by Thayer, but look at Anderson. He sets it up, moves to the outside. It's against Lawrence Taylor. Knows where he is, inside the 5-yard line, puts the head down and just bulls it down close to the 3-yard line. He did it all just right.
At the 3-yard line, first and goal, Anderson goes to the bench. Thomas and Sanders are the running backs. And whistle before the snap.
A delay of game, I believe. They might have taken too much time.
5 yards. Still first down.
A little rocky. A timeout they called a while ago they didn't want to call, and now delay of game.
Oh, that's a penalty you can't take. You can't take that on the 3-yard. You can't take that on the 3-yard line. Now, Mike Tomczak, the quarterback, will automatically get the blame, but I'll tell you, more often than not on a delay of game, it's because the play takes too long coming in from the sidelines.
Well, the wrong people are out there.
And the clock was ticking down. We're down to 1:02. The Bears have 2 timeouts remaining. First and goal at the 8-yard line. Anderson stopped for no gain. They still have Payton on the bench. Walter walking around, but not in the game right now. Marshall makes the tackle, second down and goal. There's Payton. What the Bears would love to do optimally is not only score, of course, but take as much time as they can off the clock, and they're accomplishing that for the moment. Meanwhile, Payton getting re-wrapped. Second and goal, a half a minute to go in the half. Morris in motion. And Tomzak over the middle to Shuey. And Shuey is down inside the 1-yard line.
Well, the clock's still running. The Bears better get moving.
13, and now they call a timeout. They take the timeout with 13 seconds. Inside the 1-yard line.
Well, there's a situation where Mike Tomzak has got to stop the clock quicker than that. Matsui tries for the goal line. Definitely not in.
Tomzak made a very young mistake, Dan. He looked over the sidelines. He thought it was a touchdown. He was waiting for the arms of the official to go up in the air, and the seconds just continued to tick off.
Well, they've taken enough time off the clock so they don't have to worry about the Giants if they score, but what they have to worry about right now is not getting it into the end zone. It is also third down. They have 1 timeout. And what about Perry? You begin to think about the refrigerator, who has gotten his weight down to the point now where Ditka says he could be used in this situation. But there he is.
One of the problems with that right now is Perry hasn't been out on that field for a long time. And he is not what you would call loosened up and warmed and ready to go in there. And I think that probably would be one of the things that would mitigate against his being in there as a running back.
Hard for me to imagine that he's not loose.
He is sort of revolves when he moves, doesn't he?
Last week, though, Mike put him into the backfield for a short yardage situation in their game with the Raiders, and he jumped offside.
Third down and a whisper. 13 seconds. Thomas and Sanders are the running backs. Oh! Almost illegal procedure, but Thomas goes in motion, and Tomzak takes it across the goal line, at least from the naked eye, and now they make it official. Touchdown! A near disaster. They almost got caught with illegal procedure.
Could have very easily.
A smart play by Calvin Thomas. Jumping off sides, but keep in mind, he's a back. He can move, and then he went ahead and went in motion, parallel to the line of scrimmage. That was close.
So Tomzak in for the score. Bears have the lead for the first time in the game. Harbaugh, the rookie quarterback, holding, and Butler to kick. And the Chicago Bears have mounted another very impressive drive. 80 yards, 15 plays. They lead 10-7.
Yes, we'll have to give a little confidence to Mike Tomzak, Dan. Made a mistake, let the seconds run off the clock, and he came right back, followed the center, the right guard there, into the end zone.
Calvin Thomas in motion. He's completely out of the play, and that was smart, but Hilgenberg, Fort, Thayer, Van Horn, Covert. The surge this time belonged to the Chicago Bears. Leapfrogging, Calvin Thomas. Finally gets in motion, taps Mike Tomzak, and look at Jim Burt jump clear over the top of Mike Tomzak. If he would have landed on Mike, that might have been a different outcome.
If he'd have been flagged for that, Ditka would have been out of his shirt.
So would Calvin Thomas at halftime.
As a youngster, what a baby-faced youngster he is. But he's got a lot of confidence. He really grew up during the offseason, went back to
school, worked on the basics of the game, and came back in saying this was going to be my job. I'm going to take it. There he is talking to the offensive coordinator, Eddie Hughes. Won 7 of the starts he made last year, all 7 of them. Had only 3 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Had to fight for the starting job and won it in preseason.
Wagner to kick off for Chicago. And it's Adams dropping it, and they'll take it to the 20-yard line with time for only a play or two. So there's the man Wagner, who began in such a glorious fashion tonight, having his punt blocked, and that's resulted in all of the Giants scoring. And now the Giants at their own 20 on 1st and 10.
Well, what do you do, Al? Do you throw it up?
Well, they have to still go with Rutledge.
I think we're...
Not out of this formation.
No, I think we're going to see a kneeling job.
Yeah. And so that's the way the first half is. The Giants had all of the early momentum, and then it shifted back and forth. Sims leaves the field, still dazed. Payton wasn't in at the end. We'll check on that in the first half. Ditka comes off the field with his team on top by a score of... Late in the fourth quarter in St. Louis, Dallas leading the Cardinals by 10. Neil Lomax hit Roy Green, who beats the rookie corner Ron Francis for a touchdown to make it 13-10. The Cardinal defense then held. They got the ball back into the other side of the field. This time goes Lomax again for Green, who gets by Everson Walls for the touchdown. The Cardinals would score again, 3 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes. St. Louis upsets Dallas 24-13. In Houston, another big upset. The Rams at 1 point leading by 13, but then late in the fourth quarter, Warren Moon finds number 81, Ernest Gibbons at midfield, and Gibbons goes 59 yards for the touchdown to put the Oilers on top by a point. They added a field goal and shocked the Rams 20-16. And another upset at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh yesterday, and this was a precursor of things to come for the 49ers. Early first quarter, Roger Craig hit by Mike Merriweather, coughs up the football. Delton Hall, the rookie cornerback, picks it up and goes 50 yards to the touchdown. The Steelers, after a winless preseason, win 30-17. Superdome, New Orleans, Saints and Cleveland tied 7-7 third quarter. Bobby Hebert eluding Sam Clancy of the Browns, lofting it toward the end zone, hitting Hobie Brenner for the touchdown to put New Orleans, which has never had a winning season, on top. Then fourth quarter, Saints on top by 2. New Orleans gets its second safety of the day. Brett Maxey hitting Bernie Kosar to give them a 4-point lead, and they go on to win by a score of 28-21. The most controversial play of the day came at the end of the Miami-New England game at Rain-Slick Foxborough. Miami down by 7, trying to tie it. 5 seconds to go. Don Strock, in place of an injured Dan Marino, out of the shotgun, misses Mark Duper, and the scoreboard clock shows 2 seconds remain in the game. And the clock continued to tick down to 0. Another look now. At this point, as you can see, just 1 second had elapsed, and it was obvious that the clock operator had started the mechanism late. The officials were to rule that the game was over, and New England wins it by 7. Postscript, I talked to Art McNally, supervisor of officials. He says the clock is official, the scoreboard clock. The clock operator takes a signal from the field judge. He simply goes by that signal. It was also confirmed by the side judge, who carries a stopwatch. The end result, a 7-point victory for the New England Patriots over the Miami Dolphins. Of course, Don Shula wasn't thrilled about it. Somebody asked him after the game, did you go after the officials? He said, sure, I've been going after officials for years. I still haven't caught any of them. Halftime in Chicago, 5. Miller made the American way since 1855 by Jeep. There's a feeling you can get only in a Jeep. And by AT&T, the right choice. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, and Dan Dierdorf at Soldier Field in Chicago. Phil Simms, groggy in the first half, came out once and then came out a second time. He was dazed but warming up and ready to begin play here in the second half. And the Bears will be receiving the second half kickoff. Meanwhile, no problem with Payton. We were curious as to why he wasn't in. And he was getting a retaping at one point. And the report from the bench, nothing. to receive. Thomas Sanders is number 20, and it's Dennis Gentry, number 29, who ran a kickoff back to the touchdown on opening day last year against Cleveland. And he wants to duplicate the feat as he makes the catch at the goal line. And gets necktied down at the 23-yard line by Lee Roussan. So the Bears now begin the second half at the 23, and that's a surprise when you look at those numbers. But then again, Sims was not groggy early.
Mike Tomczak had a couple of passes dropped, but by and large, those incompletions were because he was high with the football. He's had a tendency to overthrow his short guys. That's something that hopefully he's been talked to at halftime, and maybe he can put a little more finesse on the shorter throws.
First and 10 Chicago from the 23-yard line. Moore head in motion. And it's Payton bouncing off one man, but not another. Eric Dorsey in on the stop. Dorsey taking over now at the left end spot for George Martin. The Giants have the luxury of not only having a fabulous defense, but as some people get older and the newcomers begin to come on, Bill Parcells can insert them one by one.
A great tribute to George Young, who came in 1979, drafted Phil Sims, his first player, but he has built up not only a good front line offense and defense, but tremendous backup.
Second and 9. Great protection to Tomczak, who throws him out. It's caught at the 35-yard line by the tight end, Emery Moorhead.
Well thrown ball by Mike Tomczak, and he just looks like he's beginning to steady down. The job is his. He was in a battle at the beginning of the preseason. He won it in preseason, and he knows his job is his, and he's just a little more confident now. More confident, quite frankly, I feel, than when he started this game.
Well, I don't understand why the Giants are only coming at him with 3 people. You'd think that with a young kid like Tomczak back there, that you'd be bringing 7 and 8 guys and pressuring him. That time they come with 3, give him all the time in the world, and he has an easy completion.
First and 10 at the 35-yard line. This time they send 4, and he dumps it off to Anderson, who drops the ball but recovers it at the 42-yard line after a gain of 7.
But it was very heady. It's a new drop that they have Tomczak taking, not the deep drop. He read downfield that his deep receiver, Willie Galt, was covered, stepped up and found the checkoff man and was very cool about the entire affair.
At the 42-yard line, second down, and 4. Neil Anderson is out, and Calvin Thomas comes in. Out of the eye, there's Anderson being worked on. McKinnon in motion. Toss to Payton. Taken down by Banks at the 40-yard line. Payton, every time he touches the ball, there's something, and more records within reach. There it is. Remember, he's tied with Jim Brown rushing TDs. The next one, he's the leader alone. Most overall TDs. He figures to eclipse that mark this year. And we talked about receptions by a running back before, and there's Galbraith in the game tonight, 4 ahead of Payton.
The only thing we left off there is NFL franchise.
That's right. Third down and 5 from the 41. Shotgun. Over the middle, Payton is open, but short of the first down at the 42-yard line. So the pass is complete. Andy Hedden makes the catch, but they're still short of the first down, and in comes Wagner to punt.
Giants got the pressure they wanted with 4 men. Tomczak, with pressure, had to dump it off, and they were able to hold Payton short.
Now McConkey, the sure-handed one, is back to receive, and Wagner to punt. And Hilgenberg is in there to snap, despite that shoulder harness. They've had some problems with Addix, his high snaps, and so there's Hilgenberg back in there despite the harness. And it's a low snap, but he kept it off the ground. And Wagner kicks it out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Thus, from there will the Giants begin in period number 3, 11:47 to go in the quarter.
Chicago Bears, he is the Travelers Man of the Year. The Bears, Travelers Man of the Year. And during our Super Bowl coverage in San Diego, we will announce the
Travelers Man of the Year.
The New York Giants have the football for the first time in this half, and Phil Simms is back in the game.
He lines up behind the guard. We'll know he's still in trouble.
First and 10 at the 15. Bears lead 10-7. Joe Morris. Gain of 5. And it'll be 2nd and 5. Wilson and Singletary in on the stop. Simms talking about the Super Bowl said one thing it did is it gave me a great deal of contentment, and well, it should. You all know the raps on him, injury prone and inconsistent and all the rest, and then he has the day of days in the game of games.
Not to mention Disney World.
Yeah.
All those other things.
2nd and 5. Morris again. And he comes up about a yard short of the first down and pays the price at the end. It's Perry and Marshall in there. 3rd and 1.
I'm sure Bill Parcells told his ball club at halftime, guys, try to remember back how you started running the football at the beginning of the game.
Meanwhile, Frank, you are down one more notch after that.
Life has been mean.
Webster, Johnson, Morris, and number 16.
I could point out 12-game schedule and all that. He broke all my records, but in one game.
Yeah, you could, but you won't, right? 3rd down and 1 from the 25. And this is Morris trying to get that elusive yard, and he doesn't have it. He does not have it. Wilbur Marshall came in to bust up the play and force the punt.
You sense a momentum thing here, Dan. Well, that time it was Wilbur Marshall with the play because he's clearing the backfield. Joe Morris was lucky to even get close, and he doesn't get it. They're going to have to punt. Look at Wilbur in the down stance. Goes right inside Damian Johnson, an offensive lineman who lines up at tight end. And you'd expect a better block than that. He outweighs Wilbur by probably 25 pounds. But Joe Morris never had a chance on that play.
Sean Landetta, and this is not a good kick. And they don't get a good bounce either. At the 45-yard line, it's down by Roussan after a 31-yard effort by Landetta. 10:07 to go in the third. Still 10-7 Chicago. 10:07 to play in the third quarter. Chicago takes over near midfield. 1st and 10, Bears from the 45. They lead 10-7. Tom Zach throwing complete to Anderson to the 46-yard line. He gains 9. He is stopped by the corner, Mark Collins. It'll be 2nd down and 1. We'll update you on some baseball scores as we go along, but look at this one. Toronto beats Baltimore 18-3. They hit 10 homers. Ernie Witt hit 3. George Bell hit 2, now has 45. And the other news of note, Cal Ripken's consecutive inning streak ends at 82-33. Toronto tied with Detroit for first place going in. 10 homers. And Detroit won tonight, too. They're still tied. Peyton through the middle, picks up the first down to the 44-yard line.
You got to love the play calling by the Chicago Bears. Getting the possession and not afraid to throw on first down. Mike Tomczak with the completion for 8, and then go ahead, take the safe run, and pick up your first down, moving the ball into Giant territory. Mike Ditka showing an awful lot of confidence in Mike Tomczak, letting him throw like that on first down.
Eddie Hughes handling most of that play calling for the Bears. When it gets down to a critical thing, it will be Mike Ditka, and you saw Jim McMahon signaling the plays in.
1st and 10 from the 44. Tomczak throws, it's complete, but nothing doing as Neil Anderson is popped at the line of scrimmage by Peppers Johnson. All right, here's the rest of the American League now. Toronto winning, as we told you, 18-3. Detroit wins, still tied for first. Yankees win over Milwaukee. White Sox beat Minnesota here in Chicago tonight. Oakland and Texas are tied in the 8th. Kansas City leads California 7-5 in the 7th. And in the one you've all been waiting for, Cleveland won, Seattle won in the 1st. Meanwhile, that's Elvis Patterson, who was hurt earlier, shaken up again.
I think it's the same thing. It's the cramp of the right leg. He was troubled with that earlier, and they are again working on the right leg of Elvis Patterson. Again, the critical part of it, the Giants really do not have any backup cornerbacks.
Oh, he actually
tripped there,
caught
right?
his toe on the turf and
But I think the
stumbled.
leg tied up, causing him to trip like that. They took him out earlier, and he was able to come back after one series as they worked on that cramp of the right calf.
Patterson, inconsistent. They call him, well, not to his face, they call him Toast because he has a tendency to get burned once in a while.
Well, they call him that to his face. He doesn't mind. I think the leg just tied up, and it caused him to stub his toe because they continue to work on the cramp. They're hesitant to take him out of there because if he comes out, he is going to stay out at least to play. But again, the only backup cornerback the Giants have, following the injury to Perry Williams a week ago, is Herb Welch, and he basically is a safety man.
You know, Patterson not only wanted to start this year, he talked about going to the Pro Bowl. Lynn Fontes, the defensive backfield coach, and they're the National League scores. As you take a look at St. Louis and Philadelphia, tied in the 10th. Mets win over Chicago. Montreal, Pittsburgh, 3-3 in the 10th. Atlanta beats Cincinnati. And as play resumes with Patterson out, it is second down and 9 at the 43-yard line.
They quickly over Herb Welch.
Pressure, contact, off balance, throws, and it's caught for a touchdown by Morris. Mark Collins thought he had the interception, and the next thing you know, he's down, and the Bears lead by 9.
And what did we say? Hands like flypaper. Mark Collins had the football, and Ron Morris just took it away.
You go up there for the interception, make sure you're going to come down with it when you're down in this part of the football field or bat it away. Collins goes up for it, reads it all the way, and has the ball taken right out of his hands by Ron Morris.
In reality, it wasn't a very good throw by Mike Tomczak. He should have thrown it more to the middle of the field. Morris had to work back to the outside, but still concentrated on the ball and came up with a play.
Harbaugh holds for Butler. And the Chicago Bears lead by a score of 17-7.
Great position by Collins. Pressure was there.
He gets to the inside, has to react back to the outside, and just takes it away, and the Bears lead by 10.
Royce out of SMU, Ron Morris has put Chicago on top 17-7. The kickoff is taken by Adams at the 4-yard line. And George, who missed all of last year with a chipped pelvic bone, comes back out to the 17, and he's summarily dumped by Al Harris.
The momentum we were talking about earlier has definitely switched, and you do not want to be playing catch-up football with the Chicago Bears. The Giants are being pressed into that position. That's when they really come with their fire drill. And they know you have to play catch-up. They're going to be coming out of the ground.
So Sims in New York at the 17. Manuel split left, Robinson to the right. Carson and Morris in the backfield. Complete to Robinson, who makes the catch out at the 30-yard line and a first down. Reggie Phillips with the coverage.
You know, I talked about why Mike Tomczak threw the ball back towards the outside of the field. Look at this, Carl Banks unblocked on the play, falling backwards. Mike Tomczak gets rid of the football. That's a superb effort by Mike. Look at Carl Banks all alone. A couple excellent examples of concentration by the Bears.
On first down, Joe Morris dropped by a covey of Bears led by Dent and Perry. 263 and 316.
Penetration continues. The Bears defense right now is playing in the Giants backfield.
William Perry gets penetration upfield. He's really out of the play until Joe Morris is forced to turn back by Richard Denton. When Joe Morris has to go back, there's the bridge.
Second and 14 at the 27. 7:24 to play, third quarter. Sims pressure, down he goes. One-hand sack by Kidd.
Kids of the 85 season, when they used to turn Richard Dent a lot more loose than they do now. A great sack.
And that time, Phil Sims took a short drop, but still Brad Benson can't keep Richard Dent from getting a hand in. He stops Sims, then comes back and
something crazy. You're not out of this game. This is the way the Bears will really defeat a football team if you start to get panicky.
3rd and 22. Sims has already been sacked 4 times. Throws on the run. Incomplete. Intended for Bavaro. And Soldier Field has erupted.
Otis Wilson doing a little jawing at Phil Simms back in the end zone. And the Bears turn it up a notch. Again, Richard Dent on Brad Benson. A fake to the inside and just leaves him just totally helpless. But watch Otis Wilson after the play. Phil, baby. Well, they said Simms can't be intimidated. I think he just told him so.
Landetta's kick taken at the 34 by Dennis McKinnon. And he runs it back 10 to the 44-yard line. So again, the Bears take over in good shape near midfield with 6:27 to go in the third on opening night. 27 to go in the third quarter. Chicago takes over at its own 44-yard line. Tomczak is the perfect 6 of 6 in this half. Can he make it a lucky 7? He's got a man open deep, and it's caught at the 3-yard line and in for the touchdown. Willie Gould. Willie Gould beat Elvis Patterson.
Badly. He had beaten him earlier. Tomczak didn't get it there. This time he just really laid it out there as far as he could throw the football, I think. And even in that, Gould had to wait for the football. That was how bad he had beaten Patterson. Kennard, no chance. Number 43 to get over and help. Great speed. The former Olympic class hurdler. And more than that, he has gained a lot of finesse coming off his best season in 5 years of a year ago.
Mike Tomczak in 7 starts last year and a couple of mop-up rolls. As Butler kicks the extra point, he had a total of 2 touchdown passes. 2. He's got 2 now in the last few minutes, and it's 24-7. And the sudden start, Tomczak, is 17 out of 29 for 254 yards against the Giants.
Keep in mind, this is first down. Play action out of the eye, and Mike Tomczak throws that football as far as he can. Terry Kennard has no chance. Elvis Patterson, I don't know. I don't know if he didn't think that Willie Gault was as fast as he used to be. If that's what he thought. A tragic error. And Mike Tomczak asserting himself as the quarterback of the Chicago Bears.
Gault had beaten Patterson so bad that Patterson had really even given up on it. He did not even turn around and look for the football. 8 consecutive completions, and we talked about the confidence this young man has been able to generate. Came in and said, "This is my job in training camp." Settled down and took the job.
Hometown boy makes good. What a thrill. You're born here, you're raised here, you sign as a free agent with the Chicago Bears, and you have a night like tonight on national television.
And right now, the New York Giants are accepting applications for offensive linemen. And take my word for it, this is a job you do not want.
And was looking around in that huddle, finding somebody to carry it.
Down by 17 points. If they don't get a decent kickoff return, the Chicago Bears are going to make their life miserable.
Wagner to kick off. His last kick went through the end zone, and this is an instant replay.
They've made it miserable. They're going to make it terminal.
How about Wagner's night, which starts so unceremoniously with a blocked punt? The next thing you know, he's kicking off through the end zone with regularity.
Now, the one thing the Chicago Bears, and that I hope doesn't happen, is that they are such an aggressive group. They're playing with so much emotion right now against the defending world champion. Oftentimes here you'll see a cheap shot. And we've got to hope that that doesn't happen.
Sims, they got Otis right out to the right, and it's Manuel in motion. On first down, big pressure, sacks again. 5 sacks. Wilbur Marshall.
Right around the horn, he is so quick. We talk about Lawrence Taylor being a great athlete. So is Wilbur Marshall.
Well, they were talking that William Roberts was pressuring Brad Benson before he had to move. That time, Brad Benson just as helpless against Wilbur Marshall. Notice the Bears in their philosophy.
delay, and a good ball as Adams exploits the hole and gets it out to the 28-yard line. The Bear defense now with a total of 6 sacks. Sims has gone down 5 times, and Rutledge once. And the Giants, nada. Who would have believed that?
And working against a young quarterback, Mike Tomczak. They've been unable to get to him. He's made some great plays to get away from it and has made some extraordinary completions when they've been right in his face.
Third down, a yard and a half at the 28. Pressure again. Marshall bangs him. Incomplete. It's ruled an incomplete pass. Play is dead.
And that time he just goes right through Otis Anderson, who tried to block Wilbur Marshall.
You run a great risk with the type of blocking Phil Simms is getting at the moment of hurting your quarterback. Let's take a look at it again, and the effort by the Giants.
That's Otis Anderson, number 24, but watch Wilbur Marshall right underneath, right into the back of Phil Simms, and that's a fumble. That's a fumble. I sure didn't see, and I think we're going to have a replay. They're going to take a look at this.
They're calling for it. By the way, if you're wondering, the replay official can look. They don't hear our audio, though, so no matter what we say, it's not going to influence McNally.
Well, I don't see him in the throwing motion. I know he starts it back. He's holding it up. That's awful close.
It's going to be very close.
If they overrule it, it's a touchdown for McMichael.
The arm was moving a little bit forward when the ball came loose. Whether or not it was a throwing motion, I don't know.
That's what Simms is petitioning for on the sidelines as loud as he can. It will have no effect upstairs, however.
This is really a crucial call because this means 6 points.
I initially thought it was a fumble for sure. I don't think they'll overrule that. I've got a feeling that that's not conclusive evidence that it's a fumble.
And a bad effort on the part of Otis Anderson. Blind side, you let the man run right through you.
It has to be conclusive, and in reality, I don't think this is. Okay, there's contact, but Phil Simms still has the ball moving. I just don't think that's going to be enough for them to rule it a fumble.
I agree that it's not conclusive enough. The motion was there, the throwing motion, the attempt at anyway.
The interesting part of that, if that would have been ruled a fumble, I don't think that there's enough there to rule it a forward pass either.
And so many times the quarterback will get the benefit of the doubt. And that is not that conclusive.
Now from that angle, it looks more like a fumble. They'll let it stand, I think.
We don't see. Tunney. Now Tunney's going to, I think, talk to McNally. This is a critical call, and he's going to talk to McNally upstairs.
Can we look at that last one again? Because from this angle, it looks more like a fumble now. Talk about changing your mind.
Forward motion of the arm was actually caused by Wilbur Marshall as he hit the elbow, and it gave the appearance that Simms' arm was in motion.
Well, if you're not confused watching it, you're sure confused listening to us.
Well, we're obviously not the only ones that are a little confused.
Who's paying for this call? That's the booth. You can't see Art McNally in that shot.
Keep in mind, down 24-7. This would involve giving the football over to the Bears deep in Giant territory.
Oh, I'd hate to be up in that spot.
McNally, of course, is the man on the phone.
Supervisor of NFL officials, as a matter of fact. They got the top man on the job.
Although instant replay has ruled a fumble, the plow was thrown, the ball was thrown, the whistle blew. It'll be Giants ball on the 21-yard line, 4th down.
They're saying that because the whistle blew before the recovery of the football, it's a dead play. So they're ruling that the ball was loose, the whistle blew, and stopped the play. And so the Giants are getting the ball on a very, very bizarre ruling.
That, of course, was probably evaluated by that phone call from Tunney to Art McNally.
All right, my question is on instant replay, how do you determine when the whistle was blown?
Exactly. Well, that was obviously the conversation they were having. McNally's relating what he's seeing, and they're talking about the timing of the whistle.
New York's ball, 4th down.
Well, the Bear fans didn't like it the second time around either.
Yeah, and they only heard half the announcement, too. So it's 4th down. Landetta to kick. With 4:49 to go in the third period. 24-7, Chicago. Good kick. 29-yard line, McKinnon. And out of bounds, and the Bears keep taking possession up near the 40-yard line. They do it again. He's been pinning the Giants deep and then starting from near midfield. And so Bill Parcells, last year he blamed himself for the opening night loss to Dallas, 31-28. He said, I sounded the alarm too early. I learned from that. But he's going to have to rethink the way things are going. And Mike Ditka, whose team went 14-2 last year, but came up short in the playoffs. 1st and 10, Chicago at the 42-yard line. Payton and Anderson back at Tomczak. Anderson, Thayer leads the charge, and Carson breaks up the play, and he's dropped at the 45-yard line.
Frank, earlier this year during a preseason game, I remember the exact same set of circumstances where the instant replay ruled that what happened on the field actually occurred, but the play was called because at that point in time they called it an inadvertent whistle. And so this is the second time in this very young season that we've seen a play on the field negated because a whistle stopped play.
2nd and 5 at the 47-yard line. Anderson slipped by Carson and took the ball into New York territory at the 49-yard line and very close to a 1st down.
I tell you, that's almost a Gale Sayers move you saw there. Anderson making somebody miss a tackle. I flashed by on the widescreen. I think it probably was Patterson coming up. But he slid to the inside without slowing up whatsoever. You got a superstar blooming here. A pair of them, as a matter of fact. Ron Morris on the outside, and this Chicago Bear team down the line is not going to be totally defensive team. They're developing a young quarterback. He's gaining a lot of confidence. They've got a great young receiver and a fine young running back coming on.
3rd down, half a yard. And Tomczak will do it himself. At the 47-yard line, a 1st down.
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to single out the Bear offensive line because these guys are taking control of the football game. Keith Van Horn is coming out. Paul Blair is going to take his place at right tackle as Van Horn comes to the sidelines. But ever since the end of the 1st quarter, the Bears and their offensive line have dominated the Giants up front. Lawrence Taylor's been removed from the football game. We haven't called Jim Burt's number all day long.
That's right. Just one time. 46-yard line, 1st and 10 Chicago. Tomczak hit it. 46-yard line, 1st and 10 Chicago. Tomczak hit as he throws. He completes it at the 41-yard line to Neil Anderson. Eric Dorsey was the man who dropped Tomczak. And a look down from the gondola of the Goodyear Blimp, the beautiful city of Chicago, the lights down below. And as we hone in, it's a clear night here, but ooh, what's that? Thunderstorm? Ooh.
You know, I once gave my daughter her 18th birthday party in a Goodyear Blimp in Columbia, out in California.
I don't like those teeth storms.
They all got seasick. I gave my daughter the blip. Stop that.
Second down and 5.
Mine gave it back.
Peyton is dropped by Pepper Johnson. And it'll be third down and about 7. Tomczak, 126 yards in the first half and a perfect second half thus far. He is cool. He's completed 9 in a row. Jim McMahon looking on. It's been Tomczak's night. Third down and 7 from the 44. And it's intercepted. He's floated one. It was picked off by Terry Kennard. And Kennard is going to put the Giants right back in the ball game. Kennard going down the sideline, and Kennard is in there. Terry Kennard able to skirt the sideline and go 70 yards with the interception.
And Terry Kennard ought to walk right over to Lawrence Taylor, because Lawrence Taylor forced to play. The minute we say he hasn't been a factor, he comes in right in Mike Tomczak's face and forces a bad throw, Frank.
You'll see it right here. A pass that should not have been thrown. He just put this up for grabs. Had to hurry it. Taylor forced the hurry. 2 men covering the receiver, and down the sidelines goes Terry Kennard. Definitely back from that reconstruction of the knee last December.
Well, on that play,
Allegre has the extra point blocked to make it 24-13. And that could be very, very important.
Whoa.
Very important, because you need more than a touchdown and a field goal now to tie. It looked like Al Harris, number 90, who got his hand on it.
big, this block. Was there penetration or a low kick? Penetration. Look how the middle of the Giant offensive line was collapsed. Al Harris gets his hand up, and big difference between a touchdown and a field goal, and 2 touchdowns. A big difference.
First time Allegre's missed an extra point in a regular season game. He missed one in the Super Bowl after all was said and done, though, last year. 24 to back.
So completely from that knee surgery, major surgery of last December. During the mini camp, he wasn't even wearing wraps on the knee, and he has continued to improve. It's not been the best of preseasons, but that was a superb effort there, and as Dan pointed out, credit Lawrence Taylor with a big assist, and a pass that Mike Tomczak should not have put up in the air.
We have 41 seconds to play now in the third quarter. Kennard, an interesting night for the Giants secondary, the suspect Giants secondary. Burned a couple of times, but it's a secondary that's put New York right back in the ballgame.
You know, Al, you and I both recall the game in San Francisco. You never really want to write this Giants team off. 17-0 down at halftime. They come back and win it, 21-17.
And it was Bavaro on, I guess, the one play that really symbolized the Giants more than any other when he carried the 749ers 20 yards. Gentry takes the ball at the 1. And brings it back out to the 28-yard line. 29 seconds now to play in the third quarter. 24-13 Bears. Upcoming now, this weekend, college football coming your way Saturday. Will begin at 3 Eastern time. Boston College heads west to the Coliseum to take on the Trojans of Southern Cal, trying to rebound after that loss to Michigan State. And then 1 week from tonight, Monday Night Football, New England against the Jets. 2 teams coming off opening day victories.
Let's see if they continue to throw on first down.
At the 28-yard line. No, it's Peyton. And Peyton will take the ball out to the 31-yard line, so they settle here for a gain of a couple, and they'll probably let the clock run down now and end the third period. So the Chicago Bears on top after a stumbling start tonight. The block punt, the early Giant TD, but Chicago has taken control. The Giants, through Kennard, now trying to get right back in it. It's 24-13 as we go to the fourth. And we'll return to Soldier Field in Chicago after this message about an upcoming show on ABC and a word from your local station. Season premiere of Monday Night Football. Bears lead by 11, and it is second down and 6 for Chicago at its own 32-yard line. Tomczak behind Anderson. Third down. Tomczak real cool out at Lake Forest yesterday, just to break the ice on this tip pass. Dan began by saying, "You ready?" He said, "Yeah, you guys ready?"
Leonard Marshall on the rush. Does he get a hand on the ball? No, he doesn't. It didn't appear to change the course of the ball at all. It looked the way that Mike Tomczak was looking at Neil Anderson, that maybe Neil turned the wrong way, or at least in some direction that Mike Tomczak wasn't expecting.
Third and 6, Tomczak from the gun. And the inside handoff to Dennis Gentry. Gentry turns it up at the 37-yard line, and he's a little shy of the first down. He is stopped there by Carl Banks.
From clear on the opposite side of the field, I might point out, for Carl Banks. Worked his way through all the traffic at the line of scrimmage and still was able to make the stop.
And Tunney's going to take an official's time here to check out the marker. Naked eye, at least from here, it looks like he's short. Then again, Tunney has just moved a little bit to his left. And they'll bring it in. So it's either going to be pretty critical measurement here. 4th down in inches or a first down.
It looks as though the Bears themselves don't really think they have it. Part of their punting team has already filtered out to the field. That's always a good indication. And they're almost a whole yard short.
Blinding glimpse of the obvious.
So the Giants are going to get the ball back. They've already sent McConkey back deep, and Wagner is in to punt for the Bears. Phil McConkey, the versatile one, and a man we mentioned before who doesn't fumble very often, just once last year. So he's a good guy to have back in a situation like this where you can really ill afford a turnover.
He's expecting a big kick, Al. He's 45 yards back from the line of scrimmage.
Just wants to get a running start. Hilgenberg again will do the snapping. And it's a perfect snap. And an end-over-end line drive. McConkey does get that running start and runs out of bounds at the 39-yard line with some assistance. Dent making sure he gets out. So at the 39, after a 35-yard punt and an 8-yard run back, the Giants down by 11. Taken over. Soldier Field, it was a clear day, and it's been a clear night, but showed you that radar before, some T-storms in the area, and we got a little bit of rain.
A little bit.
Meanwhile, the Giants take over at their own 39. And Sims to the air, and he goes to Otis Anderson, and Anderson takes the ball out to the 48-yard line. So Anderson, who came over from St. Louis last year, great career with the Cardinals, now backs up Morris, is close to a first. Go back and reflect here. Sacks, big difference there. Giants offense, no points, only on a block punt. Morris's goal, TD catches, and Tomczak a big night. 2nd and 1. Mix-up. He runs into Anderson, and he's in the grass, but that's a sack.
And nobody blocks Mike Singletary.
He collected everybody.
He just walks through and takes them both.
Sorts the ball out, and that's it.
Mike Singletary lines up in the middle and crashes the gap. Here's Mike. He's going to go right between the left guard and the left tackle, the center and the left guard. And look at this. Tough to play quarterback and running back when you've got a blocking scheme like that.
Mike Singletary.
What are we going to call that? A tackle for a loss or a sack?
Maybe they look at the tape on Tuesday. I can tell you what Parcells is going to call it.
Yeah, I know.
I guess I can't tell you either.
It's deleted.
3rd and 7. Here comes the rush, and the pass is dropped at midfield by Bavaro. The normally sure-handed one dropped the ball.
He's been frustrated all night. Bavaro having a difficult time even coming off the line of scrimmage. He's been buffeted around in there. It's not a bad pickup on Duerson. Bensick slip. Turf is getting a little wet. A little frustration on the part of both players' fault.
Well, that's Mark Bavaro's frustration at dropping a ball he should have caught. A lot of people wondering where Mark went during the preseason. Only 2 catches. And not many tonight, I believe. Only 1 by Mark Bavaro this evening. Does he have more than 1? Yeah, only 1 catch. So Mark Bavaro, not a factor from the first day of training camp for the Giants, who haven't scored against the Bears now in 7 consecutive quarters if you go back to the playoff game.
Their offense hasn't scored. On 4th down, the punt fielded by McKinnon at the 6-yard line. Big run back for Dennis McKinnon. Out to the 40 and still going to the 40, to the 30, and McKinnon's going to go all the way.
Beautiful.
Dennis McKinnon on the shelf, hurt all last year, fights his way back. The wide receiver and punt returner, close to going down on a couple of occasions, goes 93 yards.
No picket line. Looks over there. It's not there. Like a good return man. Puts his head down, finds a little gap, and Dan, he's as close as you're going to get to going down right here.
How did he keep his balance? Talk about leg strength. Putting the left arm down, and now he's going to cut back to the middle. Run away from Lasker, and oh, that's nice. That's nice stuff.
And officially they call it 94 yards on the punt return, the longest return in Bears history. And Butler kicks the extra point. McKinnon out of Florida State. Good receiver, misfortune last year, hurt, back this year with a flourish. Is he ever? Dennis McKinnon has just broken a mark that has stood since 1942 when Ray Scooter McLean ran one back 89 yards. He goes 94 is the way they officially mark it, and it's an 18-point bulge as Adams runs the kickoff back out to the 27-yard line.
Do you think Mike Dick will chew him out for handling the ball inside the 10-yard line?
I don't think so. You know, the funny thing here, too, Dan, is that Lou Barnes is their punt returner, but he was hurt in training camp, and so the job falls to McKinnon.
Picket line was supposed to be to the left side. You saw the feed over there of the Bears. McKinnon saw that it was not going to develop. Just turned on the speed, twisted and turned, somehow got out of that, and then turned on the speed, and no question about McKinnon being back from his reconstructed knee surgery.
Giants at their own 27, 12:30 to go in the 4th. Sims shoots one out to Bavaro, who makes the catch and takes it out to the 40-yard line, and that's a first down for New York. Bavaro now in his 3rd year out of Notre Dame. In fact, he's renewing acquaintances with Dave Duerson. Duerson was a senior when Bavaro was a freshman.
What did he tell us yesterday about Mark Bavaro? Said he was the most timid receiver he'd ever seen. Said if you got anywhere near Mark Bavaro, who used to have to run scout for Dave Duerson's squad, he said, boo, he dropped the ball.
Meanwhile, the Giants, not aware of this necessarily, but it doesn't augur well for them. The Bears 26-0 in their last 26 leads in the 4th quarter. And it's completed as a flag down as Bavaro makes the catch again, and there's a penalty marker down in midfield. Jim Tunney, your referee.
It's not often you see it come out of the deep secondary that it doesn't go against the defense.
Pass is completed. Penalty be refused. First down.
So back-to-back completions to Mark Bavaro, and the Giants are on the move at the 37-yard line. 31-13 Chicago. Most points scored against New York since Opening night last year when Dallas came up with 31. High throw and a nice catch at the 28th. And that's Stephen Baker at 5'8". He's a rookie out of Fresno State. They love him. He is small, but he is very, very fast and great moves.
Playing with a very sore finger on his left hand. Jammed. It was severely jammed this past week, and they did not know whether he's even going to be able to play. But the Giants have the receiver types in there. Adams is in there. This kind of a game, you have to get Joe Morrison out of there. The Giants have.
2nd and 1 at the 27-yard line. Throw, Adams, and he's bottled up, and it'll be 3rd down. And a little scuffle breaks out with Wilbur Marshall, and I think Otis Anderson is also involved in it. Anderson and Marshall, and there's Robinson and Jackson attempting to make peace. 3rd down now. 3rd down and about 2, and the Giants in 3rd down situations. There it is, and as you can see, a lot of incomplete passes tonight. Just 2 first downs.
Well, look at some of those distances. 11, 16, 15, 21. Not exactly prime 3rd down real estate.
3rd and 2. Carson and Morris are in the game, and they send Moat in motion. Morris follows Carson, but it's broken up by number 99, Dan Hampton.
If the line of the Giants is breaking down, it's never more obvious than right now in the latter stages of the ballgame. Dan Hampton works to the outside, plays off Maurice Carthen, and drags Morris down, but he should have been handled at the line of scrimmage. And I think so far, Frank, you'd have to agree, a night the Giant offensive line like to forget.
And really hurting on the right side. That time Roberts very slow getting off. No way he could get to Hampton.
The Giants have to go for it on 4th and 6, trying to stay in the game with 10 minutes to play. And wide open at the 20-yard line is Bavaro, who fights off Duerson and out of bounds at the 3-yard line. So the Giants are able to stay in the game. Sims to Bavaro. Otis Wilson that time came in and was picked up by George Adams on a nice block.
And that's the key. Otis Wilson, let's watch him come in on the blitz, come up the middle. Let's watch him picked up at the line of scrimmage. Otis Wilson coming from the inside. Bam! George Adams, a nice block by the time Otis can recover. Mark Bavaro, who looked like initially he should have been covered by Mike Singletary, found himself wide open in the Bears secondary round.
Giants love to go to manual on timing patterns when they get down close like this.
Manuel is split to the right, Robinson to the left, 1st and goal. Bears come flying through and over the middle, incomplete. Intended for Robinson, and Bavaro is also right there.
Sims pass,
2nd down.
intended for Stacy Robinson, was incomplete. Broken up by Christy Jackson.
I think Bill Parcells is saying we got what we wanted that time. The Bears coming on an all-out blitz. We had it read. We just didn't execute the play. A lot of times the coach will like a blitz in a goal line situation like this.
And Sims almost dropped the snap that time. 2nd down, goal at the 5. 9:48 to go. Chicago up by 18. Sims incomplete. Intended for Robinson, and Reggie Phillips was there blanketing him.
Sims pass.
One thing about the Bears, they're not afraid to come with it again. There's Dave Duerson. Mike Singletary's inside, but really, Steve McMichael is going to be the guy that pressures Phil Sims. That time anticipated well by Reggie Phillips. Took the inside away from
Manuel to the right. They line Bavaro up on the right side. Adams and Anderson. The back. Manuel gets taken down at the line of scrimmage and then gets up, and Robinson, the intended receiver, the near interception by Phillips.
Sims pass, intended for Bavaro.
So it's 4th down and goal now.
By Reggie.
Game is being played out. Ron Earhart talking from the booth next to us. Down to Bill Parcells. Play going in to Phil Sims.
And that time, no blitz. Phil Phil Simms has all the time in the world. He just can't find an open guy. And how does Reggie Phillips drop that football?
4th and goal. Manuel and Robinson both to the right this time. And Simms says timeout. They take a timeout. This one is too important. This one is to keep the Giants in the game. 9:36 to go in the 4th. 31-13 Chicago.
On the field.
Ball at the 5-yard line. It is 4th down and goal. And Bill Parcells in conference with his men upstairs and then imparting that wisdom to Simms, and let's see what they come up with. Robinson left, Manuel in motion. He looks toward Robinson. He throws for Stacy, and he makes the catch for the touchdown. He beats Vesti Jackson.
To Stacy Robinson for the Giants touchdown.
Stacy Robinson running a little out, and Simms gets it there, and the Giants are able to stay in the game with 9.5 to play.
Touchdown.
There's a pass by Simms. There's a flag on the far side of the field, but that's going to go against Chicago. This is as good as it gets from Phil Simms. The Bears faking the blitz. Vesti Jackson made his mistake by never turning around to look at the football or the quarterback. He had no idea the ball was right there, and Stacy Robinson, he was in position to make a play.
And that time, the offensive line, they did what they had to do. The Bears were thinking pass all the way, and Simms had the time to get rid of it.
Now Allegre on a bobble snap. It's Rutledge, who's a quarterback by trade, of course, trying to convert, and no good. It's intercepted by Duerson. That miss is not particularly critical. That other one, the first one, really was. It's 31-19. They're going to need 2 touchdowns. They would have needed 2 touchdowns regardless. So Stacy Robinson making the catch on a 4th down play. 31-19, 9.5 to go. This was one of those games where everybody figured real low scoring. It was almost too obvious that it was going to be so low scoring, you knew it would be 50 points.
You can see where the Bears faked the blitz, but Vesti Jackson never turned around to look at the football. You can play your man, but you have to play the football as well.
It's all timing for that defensive back. He has to almost read the eyes. He has to stay close and then read the eyes and see when that ball is coming in there. Vesti just a little late, and again, a terrific shot by Phil Simms to make that completion.
Right through the hands of Jeff Rutledge. The snap was perfect. He just bobbled the ball. So twice in a row, the Giants failed to convert on an extra point.
Lager had been perfect coming into tonight in his career with the Giants on PATs. Now they missed 2 of them.
Well, you can't blame Allegre for that one.
No, I don't think the first one either. It was a very high snap.
Allegre went through a little contract squabble with the Giants last year. Parcells called him up. He said, "Hey, Raul, how much did you make last week?" He said, $500. He said, "We're going to pay you $6,300 a game. You got a pen? Can you subtract?" He was in camp the next day. Deep check, 2 yards in, Gentry. 20. And out to the 31-yard line. And he's tackled by Phil McConkey. So 9 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the 4th. Bears on top 31-19.
Well, now there's a little bit of pressure on the Bear offense. How many times have you seen games like this where an offensive football team got overly conservative? 3 downs and out. Keep in mind, you're playing the world champions. 9 minutes and 20 seconds left. I think Mike Dick is well aware of that fact. This is no time to pull it in.
1st and 10 out of the 32-yard line. And it's Walter Payton slicing his way out to the 39-yard line. Brought down by Harry Carson. And again, a look now at the quarterback comparison, and Kennard is a little slow in getting to his feet. Terry shaken up on the play, and so an official's timeout. Meanwhile, the one area in which man for man, New York had a giant advantage coming in, no pun intended, at quarterback, but look at the numbers.
Well, a quarterback can't do it by himself. In reality, Phil Simms has thrown the ball extremely well tonight. It's just that he's been harassed totally by the Bear defense. On the other hand, Mike Tomczak has enjoyed virtually flawless protection. Lawrence Taylor was in his face when he has the interception that's run back by Kennard. That was certainly not his fault, but again, it all starts up front. If you don't have a little cooperation from your teammates, you're really limited what you can do.
That's Terry Kennard now being treated on the field. I think he has a cramp also. We watched earlier as Elvis Patterson went out of the game a couple of times with the cramp in his calf, and that appears to be what they are working on now with Terry Kennard.
And again, that's a secondary that has a lot of problems, and we'll go back to Perry Williams, the outstanding cornerback who had to go on injured reserve, so they're really hurting as far as depth is concerned, and there are some question marks in the starting lineup. It's the one area of vulnerability in that Giant defense.
And I think Phil Parcells, that we just saw on the sidelines, is getting a little taste of what it's like to be the defending Super Bowl champion. They're going to come at you in waves. It's going to be the same next week with Dallas, and every week after. You're the team everyone would like to beat. And the Chicago Bears tonight, I think, are showing the kind of intensity that the Giants are going to see all season long.
When you're the fastest gun, you have to expect it. And they're going to get it all year. There's no question.
Second down and 3 now for Chicago. Tom Flynn has come in the secondary for New York. And it's Walter Payton taking the ball to the 42 and very close to a first down as they work on Terry Kennard.
Well, there's nothing wrong with pulling your horns in offensively and running the football as long as you're doing it as effectively as the Bears. As Terry Kennard, cramp really begins to tighten up.
That is so painful. First of all, you have your ankles taped so tight, it's hard to get it out of there once you get it.
I always found the best thing to do, though, Frank, was get up and walk around, try to put some weight on it.
First and 10 at the 43-yard line. And it's Anderson. He wants to stay in bounds and keep that clock going. He takes it to the 47-yard line. That's important, and that's exactly what Chicago wants right now. Stay on the ground, stay in bounds, and keep picking up first downs and take that time off the clock.
It's conservative, but if they have to put it up, they're going to put it up very short. They're going to put it up in all probability to either Payton or Anderson coming out of the backfield. They'll be very conservative and very careful because they are being able to move it this way.
Well, this is no ragtag outfit running the ball. They've only led the league the last 2 years in rushing offense.
Second down and 6. And it's Payton. And out of bounds at the 48-yard line.
That is how to give rather than receive. Walter Payton took it to Herb Welch rather than get knocked out of bounds. If you're going to go out of bounds, let them know you were there. Walter Payton putting up the forearm and the shoulder right into Herb Welch.
Yeah, Pepper Johnson saying, lay off my man Herbie, would you?
Herbie was saying that as well.
Third down and 5 at the 48. Payton, and that doesn't fool Dorsey, and he stopped his momentum enough, and the Giants are going to get the ball back.
Walter saying, good call, Mike.
Back at the 15-yard line. 6:55. And the Bears taking as much time as they can on the 30-second clock. It's down to 5 now. And they snap it at 2. McConkey's going to let it go. And it bounces into the end zone.
Boy, did he fool Wilmer Marshall.
Pretty good decoy. Great little decoy.
Marshall was standing there when he made the fair catch. He was ready to tee off on him.
You never believe them, Wilbur. These guys will lie to you. McConkey put up his hand for the fair catch at about the 12-yard line. Wilbur Marshall stopped right in his face, and the ball lands at about the 2. Watch this. There's McConkey. Oh, he's clear up at the 15. Look at Wilbur stop.
After the 20 come the Giants now. 6:36. Otis Anderson is in as a receiver to the right. Sims. Pressure. Down again at the 18. It's Van Hampton wrapping him up. And that's 8 sacks now. 8 for Chicago.
Are you surprised?
A little bit. Giants had protected Phil so well at the end of last year, but again, when you look at what's happened with Carl Nelson being out on the right side, that line had been so intact for so long. When you start gimmicking up the line, well, Dean, you got a major problem. The Giants have had it tonight. They've been all over them.
Second down and 12 from the 18-yard line. Sims, incomplete. Intended for Robinson, who takes the pop from Steve Jackson. Jackson and Phillips, the cornerbacks for Chicago. And if you're wondering about Mike Richardson, who has not been in tonight, Richardson, normally a starting cornerback, held out, signed before the last preseason game. And he's a reserve now. Jets had 9 all the way back in 81. Last time the Giants had given up this many. 3rd and 12. Sims has Robinson open and he drops the football. Stacey Robinson got wide open and couldn't hold it. Wilbur Marshall greeted Sims as he threw.
What more could he ask Phil Sims to do? He's getting pressured. Wilbur Marshall there at the top right corner. Watch him come. He beats Otis Anderson. Otis Anderson goes low. Wilbur stays on his feet and really hits Sims at the moment of release, and yet it's a perfectly thrown pass. Phil Sims, he's blameless in this losing effort right now by the New York Giants. There, I don't know what else the guy can do.
Landetta to kick. And a fair catch is called for, and a real fair catch this time is made at the 38-yard line by Dennis McKinnon. So 5 minutes and 46 seconds remain in the 4th quarter.
You know, you touched on something, Dan. These numbers for Phil Sims tonight are going to be disastrous, but it'll be forgotten when you look back on this game. What it really was, he's just been fighting for his life.
American League quickly to update baseball. Tigers win, and so do the Blue Jays, who hit 10 homers tonight. Incorrectly earlier, we had it the other way around. Milwaukee beats New York 6-4. Twins lose. Oakland, Texas tied. Kansas City beat California. Give you the National shortly. First down, Chicago from the 39-yard line. And Anderson as they try to chew up the clock. Now taking a look at the National League, where the Mets were able to salvage a victory yesterday at Shea Stadium, and they win tonight. Second on your left, 6-5 over Chicago. Cardinals lose, so the Mets are now a game and a half back. Montreal and Pittsburgh are tied in the 13th. Reds lose. Giants are tied with San Diego. Houston leads L.A.
So the Mets in a position to put the hurt not only to the Cardinals, but the Expos as well if they don't win.
I thought you were hired to do football only. What is this?
Closet baseball fan.
Second down and 9. And it's Peyton out of bounds at the 46-yard line. You are a Renaissance man.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. I've gone from the blimp to the Renaissance man.
Such a Renaissance man, let's read that little card.
Go, pal. What do we got there?
Score by quarters. That's what we've got right in front of us. 31-19. After this play, guys, after this play.
All right.
I'm rehearsing.
He's rehearsing. Ready for that disclaimer. Me. Third down and 3 at the 46. Bootleg. And contact at Moorhead at the 28-yard line. Emory Moorhead for a big first down.
And it keeps
the clock ticking away. And you talk about misdirection. The Chicago Bears had more people going different directions in the middle, and Emery Moorhead coming all the way across from left to right. He lined up on the left side. Mike Tomczak on the move, delivers it in there perfectly for Moorhead, who dropped one earlier, and that time all the way across the field. And hey, Mike Tomczak, this guy is here. He's a new man.
He's growing up.
1st and 10 at the 28-yard line. Peyton goes nowhere. Pepper Johnson makes the tackle, and the Bears will take as much time as they can now between plays with the clock going down to 4 minutes.
Al and Frank,
How about a drum roll?
This telecast is presented by the authority of the National Football League. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or this tackle on Walter Payton or any other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the National Football League is strictly prohibited.
Real average.
Yeah. You try doing it in the middle of a replay.
2nd and 10 from the 28. Peyton to the 25-yard line. And we saw the rain before from the blimp. And that light rain has made its way to Soldier Field.
It's only a light rain, I guess, in Chicago. And the faithful are leaving. The Bear fans are putting this one in the bank and heading for their cars.
3rd down and 7 at the 25-yard line. Under 3 minutes to play. Bears ahead by 12. Sir Walter. And he gets inside the 20 to the 19-yard line. He's out of bounds, and I don't think he got the first. Harry Carson ran him out of bounds there. Of course, the thing here, too, a field goal really cinches it. Because a field goal puts the Giants more than 2 touchdowns behind on 4th and 1 if they want to opt for that.
That is something you could get blocked, and the Giants could take it back in for a touchdown. We want to get way out in left field. So I think they'll probably go for it and leaving their offensive unit out there.
Well, Butler is at the ready, but Ditka says, stay here, my friend. 2:44, 4th down and 1 at the 19-yard line. Tomczak on a sneak, and I think he's got it.
Well, that's just an example of what we've seen all day long. The entire Giant defensive line was moved back by the Bear offensive line. They are just plain dominating up front.
Parcells has been saying it all along. He's been worried about this offensive line. And, of course, as we mentioned earlier, losing Carl Nelson over the right side. Roberts having to come in has made a major difference. And Tomczak, this is what, the 3rd time tonight he's picked up the first down on his own with the quarterback sneak.
In key situations. And he has not been sacked tonight. Who would have believed it? The disparity in sacks. They have neutralized the Giant defense. Lawrence Taylor hasn't gotten very many calls tonight. Mike Tomczak has. What a night for the local kid, and what a night for the Bears. It's a 2-minute warning in Chicago. I want you to know we're real proud of you, pal. No Oops Awards tonight. No Glitch Awards for you.
Shoes tied. Everything
tied.
going for you.
Rookie of the year. You've been so named.
I'm such a lucky guy. I'm such a lucky guy.
Tom is through the middle to the 14th. So you going to stick around for the rest of the year or what? What do you figure, Dan?
I don't know. Find out in New York.
Have to look at the films.
You know, there's something we got to talk about right now, and it's the Chicago Bears. How good they've looked tonight. How good Mike Tomczak has looked. And then take a peek at this schedule of theirs. Now listen to this. Next week, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Philadelphia, Minnesota. The Chicago Bears.
A rough road there.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears are going to be hard to handle in the National Football Conference.
They played great defense, but we talked earlier about their offense, Dan. And Neil Anderson now working in there as a starter with Peyton, a great running back, good receiver out of the backfield. Mike Ditka said, I've got to get him in there. The development of the rookie Ron Morris, a 2nd-round draft pick out of SMU, who probably would have been a 1st-round pick if he hadn't hurt his knee a year ago. Working with Willie Gault on the other side, and now McKinnon is back working underneath. This is a dramatically different offensive team.
Second down and 6 for Chicago at the 13-yard line. 1:55 left in the fourth. And it's Calvin Thomas taking it to the 10-yard line. And,
Lightning.
Yep.
Lightning has struck the Giants tonight.
Minute and a half remaining in the fourth. And the Sha-Na-Na Serenade at Soldier Field. Third down and 2. And Thomas trying to claw his way to a first down. It's close. Bird and Dorsey in on the tackle.
And it's really interesting to see some of the Bear players on the field and some of them on the sidelines kind of waving their arms, asking the crowd to be quiet. What a show of sportsmanship by the ever-loving Chicago Bears.
Oh, they're great sports.
And Parcells watching his team for the second year in a row go down to an opening night defeat. Last year, 31-28. Herschel Walker ran it in at the end. And Mike Ditka, whose team won the Super Bowl 2 years ago and whose team was 14-2 last year, has another powerhouse.
He is so refreshing. He was yelling at his young quarterback right then. With 109 remaining and leading 31-19. Great coach to play for. You know exactly where you stand with him. Sometimes you don't like where you stand with him, but you know where you are.
Oh, yeah. The game in Detroit last year was amazing. He wrung that victory out.
I'd like to be with Ditka on the golf course when he misses a 3-footer for about $50. Going to be behind him. You know, it'd just be fun to see.
Oh, he's a piece of work. Played that way, too. Only tight end I ever knew, particularly at his time. Set a tight end record, as a matter of fact, when he was a player. But he'd go looking for people. They gave him a hard time.
Kevin Butler will attempt to wrap this up officially with a field goal at the 15-yard line. And this will put New York down by more than 2 touchdowns. 31-19 is the score. Chip shot for Butler with Harbaugh holding. And you can write a climax to this one at 34-19. 15-point Chicago advantage. And ABC's Monday Night Football produced by Ken Wolf. Directed by Larry Cam. Our technical director, Joe Shabo. Associate director, Ben Harvey. Pregame and halftime producer, Mike Pearl. Associate producers, John McGinnis and Rob Feiner. Technical manager, Bill Freeberger. Ed McKenna, our unit manager. Jim Licata, telecommunications manager. Bruce Clark, Carrie Loberfeld. Mike Cohen, the assistants to the producer. Steve Hurt for research and information. And the boys upstairs, Malibu Kelly Hayes and George Hill of Everywhere.
34 points on the board. I don't know that Bill Parcells thought that was possible with that defense of his.
More than they allowed it in the game last year.
Hard work does pay off. Worked all offseason on his fundamentals. Last year, Mike Ditka said if this kid doesn't improve, he's gone. And Mike Tomczak, if I'm a Renaissance man, he's a self-made man.
He'll be an author tomorrow. He'll own a restaurant by tomorrow night. They love him here in Chicago, and he has been sensational.
I wonder if any team's ever had more depth at quarterback. You've got Tomczak. We haven't mentioned Doug Flutie tonight. He's the backup. They love Jim Harbaugh, the rookie out of Michigan. And then there's McMahon. IR for the moment.
Well, it's a long season. We might be premature in canonizing Tomczak after one game.
Wagner to the 6-yard line. And it's Adams running it back out too close to the 30.
You touched on the reality of it, Dan. We have a little, maybe pumped him up a little more than it should be, but he has tremendous numbers tonight and going against the world champion Giants.
most decisive loss opening day by a Super Bowl champion, all the way back to 1970 when Hank Stram was coaching Kansas City and Minnesota beat him 27-10. Right now the margin is 15.
Now that's a 15-point differential graphic.
Swing it out to Galbraith. And Tony is out to the 35-yard line. And so Chicago stays at home now. They've got Tampa Bay in here next week, and the Bucs are sky high after that 48-10 thrashing of Atlanta. Giants go home to meet Dallas. As if Landry doesn't have enough problems after blowing that lead yesterday, he's got a Giant team coming off a loss Sunday.
Short week for the Giants on top of it. They're on the road. They won't get back to New York till close to daylight. Right to work for the coaching staff, and not long until they have to play the Cowboys. That's just one more thing to make it tougher than it already is.
Third down and 2. And the pass is caught out at the 40-yard line by Bavaro. Well, Bill Parcells knows what this plane ride's going to be like. He took it a year ago on a Monday night. He blamed himself for that loss. He was angry with his defense. They promised him they would get it together that night after the game, and they did. And tonight, the same kind of ride home. Manuel makes the catch. Well, Manuel's been a silent man tonight, and the clock has run out. Tomczak and the Bears defeat the Giants, and they do it with emphasis. 34-19. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf. That's the story from Soldier Field in Chicago. Bears win it 34-19. And this ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Buick. And again this year, as it has for 85 years, the great American road car belongs to Buick. And by Miller Genuine Draft Cold Filtered Draft Beer, it's as real as it gets.